Chapter 1140. During this battle, Zhao Fu found that Qin's greatest weakness was that compared to the world outside the Legacy Land, Qin's foundation was far from enough. After this battle, it was evident that the other side had far more experts and Stage 1 experts than Qin. After returning to Qin, Zhao Fu had been thinking about this problem the entire time. However, this problem was almost unsolvable, and only with enough time would he be able to build up a foundation. Even with the heaven-defying heaven and earth refining formation, it could only reduce the distance between them and not make up for it. This was because the blood god pills obtained from the heaven and earth refining formation could only raise one's cultivation by a large amount and could not directly raise one's cultivation by Stage 1. It seemed that Qin needed time to build up his foundation. In order to avoid offending too many people and powerful kingdoms, Qin had to build up his foundation for a while. Now that there was no heaven domain boundary protecting him, the outside world was incredibly big and filled with boundless dangers. There was also a big weakness, which was that there were not enough people with armament. Back then, Zhao Fu had realized this problem, so he had not refined his sect armament. However, he found that it was still not enough. For example, if it wasn't for the 8 aquatic beast kings and 100 sword obsession, they would not have been able to stop the other side's kings at all. Qin's people were quite powerful, but facing so many people, there would definitely be casualties. Right now, Zhao Fu wanted to give up on some armaments and increase the number of people with armaments in Qin. Otherwise, if more kings attacked, it would be very difficult for Qin to defend, and Qin would have to be prepared to fight one against many. Zhao Fu thought about the kingdoms that Qin had destroyed in the past. Their legatees would most likely still be able to use armaments, as these armaments had once belonged to their kingdom. Even though they had been refined by Zhao Fu, there was still some connection to them. What was more important was that Zhao Fu had given them permission to use armaments, and with Qin's fate, they would most likely be able to use them. Of course, ordinary kingdoms would not be able to do this, as they would not be able to refine a nation armament. Moreover, using a nation armament required fate, and without a massive amount of fate it would be impossible to use it. Because Qin had refined their nation armaments, they naturally belonged to Qin and could use Qin's fate, while others could not. As such, within the heaven-awakened world, a powerful nation would be surrounded by countless smaller nations. These smaller nations would be controlled by the powerful nation, and the benefits of this would be that not only would they have many nation armaments, but they would also have many core. Zhao Fu asked Li Si to prepare some information on Qin's legatees, as well as those with nation armaments. Li Si quickly prepared a document for Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked through it carefully, intending to pick the most outstanding ones. "Your Majesty, the rewards have not been given out yet," Li Si said as he watched Zhao Fu hurry in. Not only were the countless ministers and soldiers excitedly waiting, but the ordinary residents were also waiting for Zhao Fu to announce this to the world and celebrate Qin's great victory. Zhao Fu had almost forgotten about this. Giving out rewards was the best way to boost morale and strengthen the unity of a kingdom. He could not delay this, so he said, "Li Si, go and prepare. We will go out later." Li Si nodded and left. Following this, Zhao Fu sat on his throne in his dragon robe, while Li Si read out the imperial decree. His generals and generals went up, and everyone looked delighted. A large banquet was held, and Qin started to celebrate their victory. Now, the matter of attacking the 3 worlds had concluded. Following this, Zhao Fu chose 6 people to use nation armament. They were the Vile dynasty's evil spirit, the Song dynasty's Zhao Xiaolong, the Roman Empire's Rodas, the Kievan Rus dynasty's Onya, the Elf Kingdom's Elegant Scholar, and the Half-Beast Kingdom's Green Wolf. These people were not the previous legatees, as the previous legatees had long since been killed. The people in front of them were the most outstanding people with the best bloodlines and talent, and Zhao Fu had appointed them as legatees. The 6 of them had never thought that they would one day be able to obtain the nation armaments that belonged to their families. Even though these nation armaments now belonged to Qin and they could only use them under Zhao Fu's orders, obtaining nation armaments meant that they could walk into the highest levels of Qin. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The 6 people knelt on the ground, looking quite delighted. They felt quite excited to be able to receive such an important position from Qin. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and summoned the 6 nation armaments. He gave them to the 6 of them to familiarize themselves with the nation armaments' power so that they wouldn't know how to use them on the battlefield. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu relaxed and sent soldiers to the 3 continents to clear them out. Because they were all part of Great Qin's territory, they were quite easy to clear out. The main thing was to construct the Great Wall. Zhao Fu wanted to make the 3 continents part of Great Qin's territory. Finally, Zhao Fu went to the Light God Temple, which was where Qin had nurtured the Light God. The Light God had naturally been nurtured by the divinity shard. Zhao Fu did not feel much reverence towards godly spirits, and he only viewed them as powerful existences. However, even powerful gods had to submit to Qin, which was why Zhao Fu dared to nurture godly spirits. Ordinary people would not dare to do such a thing. After coming to the Light God Temple, Zhao Fu found that the massive crystal had become a statue of a woman. She wore a white cloak, and the face under the cloak was incredibly beautiful and gave off a warm aura. As Zhao Fu walked in, the Light God's figure gradually appeared. She bowed to Zhao Fu and called out, "Your Majesty." Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Very few people could make a godly spirit act like this, and the scene of tens of thousands of godly spirits submitting to him appeared in Zhao Fu's mind. That majestic scene could make anyone feel quite excited. Zhao Fu had come to see her. She had already formed her form a few days ago, and she only had some fragmented memories. After some time, she had accepted her current identity, and Qin's massive amount of faith energy caused her power to quickly increase. Zhao Fu had wanted to change the contents of the Bible and use it to replace the God in the Bible. That way, he would obtain even more faith energy, but he found that it would not work. Because the Bible had been ingrained in Westerners' minds for thousands of years and could not be replaced, they asked for Zhao Fu's understanding. They did not dare to directly oppose Zhao Fu, or else Zhao Fu would directly chop off their heads. As such, they used a tactful method. Seeing that they were unwilling, Zhao Fu did not insist on continuing and respected their faith. However, Zhao Fu's principle was that all faith had to lower its head in front of the king, and he would not allow divine power to take over the king's position. What had happened in the West would not happen in Qin. Chapter 1141. The radiant gods' function was the same as the water gods. They could give all sorts of blessings and form a team of divine guard. These divine guards would become stronger along with the godly spirit. If the godly spirit became stronger, the divine guards would also become stronger. Not only were their attributes related to the godly spirit, but they could also obtain bloodlines related to the godly spirit. After seeing the radiant god, Zhao Fu ordered people to continue building a temple. This temple was called the Temple of Life, and Zhao Fu wanted to nurture another godly spirit. When Qin invaded the elf world, he conquered a very ancient family and found a piece of wood that had been consecrated in a secret room. This piece of wood looked like a section of a tree. It was 1 meter tall and 1 palm wide, and it was a black color. What was surprising was that this piece of wood had green sprouts, and it gave off a powerful aura of life. The golden dragon said that this was a piece of godly spirit wood. It was originally a section of the world tree, but after countless years of consecration, it had gained divinity and could nurture a godly spirit. Not only that, but the golden dragon also gave Zhao Fu a way to nurture a goddess of life that the elves believed in. Almost all elves believed in the elf goddess, and the special attributes of the villages were all related to the goddess of life. The goddess of life was one of the high-level godly spirits in the godly realm. The goddess of life that Qin nurtured was naturally a new kind of goddess of life. Right now, it could not compare to the real goddess of life, but in the future, with a large amount of faith, its power could rival the real goddess of life. This method was to find the blood of 10,000 female elves, and they had to be virgins. It seemed that all godly spirits were very interested in virgins. For example, during sacrifices, both good and evil godly spirits needed virgins. Of course, it was very easy for Qin to gather the blood of 10,000 elves. During this period of time, Zhao Fu ordered people to quickly build the Temple of Life. Following this, he placed the piece of godly spirit wood on the altar in the middle and fused the blood of countless virgins into it. The piece of wood gave off an intense green light, and a powerful aura spread out. The piece of wood grew bit by bit. Soon, it was 2 meters tall, and only the trunk grew. The rest of the wood didn't grow. Then, the wood began to change. It gradually took on the shape of a person, and finally, it became a statue that seemed to have a life of its own. A beautiful elf image wearing green clothes with a slim figure appeared in front of Zhao Fu. This was the manifestation of the divine spirit tree's divinity. This was because the divinity had been there for a long time, and its divine form had been condensed long ago. In other words, she had been like this before. "Greetings, Your Majesty." After the goddess of life's body appeared, she gave a trace of a smile and bowed towards Zhao Fu. Before, Zhao Fu had communicated with her that Qin could help her become a powerful god, but she had to be loyal to Qin. The goddess of life was very happy and agreed, because this was what she wanted. At the same time, she had a condition, which was to treat her family well. This was naturally a small matter, so Zhao Fu directly agreed. Zhao Fu looked at the goddess of life's attributes and the blessings she could give. They weren't very suitable for fighting, but they were very suitable for support. They could give great healing effects, and Zhao Fu was quite satisfied with these abilities. As long as the goddess of life was a bit more powerful, she could be used in war, and the effects would not disappoint Zhao Fu. Now, Qin only had 3 gods, which was a bit small. There was still a long way to go before the image of all gods submitting to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu still wanted to cultivate a godly army. After all, they would also be very powerful. It seemed that he had to pay more attention to this in the future and cultivate more gods as soon as possible so that they could be used in war and help Qin conquer the world. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu prepared to refine the king seals into 18 underworld king seals. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the transformation ground trembled and gave off a gray light. A cold and eerie aura from the underworld flowed in, fusing into the king's seal in the air, and the king's seal's attributes started to change. Apart from Zhao Fu standing next to the transformation formation, there were 9 figures standing behind Zhao Fu. They were the Yin lords that Zhao Fu had appointed, and they would be responsible for all matters regarding the ghost soldiers in the future. 6 of them were Yin generals, who had been transformed from dead generals. The remaining 3 were the city god, Dark North Red Autumn, and the black and white impermanences. As the city god, Dark North Red Autumn was related to ghosts in many aspects, so he was very suitable to be a Yin lord. The black and white impermanences came from the underworld, and their attributes and bloodlines were all ghost attribute. They were more suitable to be Yin lords than the city god, so Zhao Fu listed them as Yin lords. They also told Zhao Fu about the various effects of the underworld king seals. The first was to collect 100 underworld king seals to open the underworld gate and go to the underworld. This was the underworld king seal's special attribute and was a rare ability. Following this were the various abilities of the underworld king seals. The first ability was to obtain a territory. The underworld was not like the heaven awakened world, where worlds continuously fused into it, and its area continuously expanded. The underworld and godly spirit worlds were attached to the heaven awakened world, and even though their area would become larger, they would grow much slower. Almost every place in the underworld already had an owner, and the owners of these places were basically occupied areas, not true owners. However, as long as one held the underworld royal seal, they could obtain the acknowledgement of the underworld. Only after obtaining its acknowledgement could one be considered a true owner. However, Zhao Fu felt that this was not very useful, as the prerequisite was that he had to defeat the previous owner of the territory, or else he would not be able to obtain the territory. However, sometimes, if one was lucky and had an underworld king seal, one would be able to obtain a territory for free. In other words, the underworld would give a territory to the owner, and that territory would be ownerless. This was quite rare, as most territories already had an owner, and there were very few ownerless territories. The second ability of the Underworld King Seal was to allow one to obtain the Underworld's fate. As one of the three worlds, the Underworld's fate was unimaginably massive, and obtaining great benefits would be quite beneficial. Moreover, the Underworld King Seal was an underworld relic, and its abilities were the same as ordinary King Seals. It also had Ghost King's power. The final ability was to fuse the Underworld King Seal into one's body, turning one into a member of the Death Race, and one's bloodline might even become the Underworld Royal Bloodline. Chapter 1142. Boom. A massive and cold aura spread out as the 10 or so King Seals were successfully refined into Underworld Royal Seals. Each King Seal could only be used by one person, and it seemed that Zhao Fu still had to appoint 10 or so Underworld Lord. If Zhao Fu really wanted to go to the Underworld in the future, the ghost soldiers would be of great use. However, Zhao Fu felt that there was no need to go to the Underworld at all, and he did not know what he would do there. Zhao Fu was not interested, but the black and white impermanences were extremely interested. After all, their families were there, and they had friends and family there. Right after catching the Underworld Royal Seal, the black impermanence put her hands on Zhao Fu's shoulders and blew a fragrance into Zhao Fu's ears as she flirtatiously smiled and said, "Your Majesty, there are many peerless beauties in the underworld. There are also many peerless beauties in the underworld. They are waiting for you to conquer them. You have to go. Also, perhaps our family will be able to provide some help to Qin in the underworld." Hearing this, Zhao Fu smiled and did not mind her previous words. Instead, he was quite interested in the black and white impermanence's family, as it was most likely an extremely ancient family. They were most likely even more powerful than Qin. With so much time in the future, perhaps he really would have to go to the underworld in the future, so Zhao Fu did not refuse the black impermanence's suggestion. Seeing that Zhao Fu did not refuse, the white impermanence gave a trace of a happy smile. Perhaps she would be able to see her friends and family soon. Zhao Fu put away the Underworld Royal Seal and picked 10 or so of the strongest ghost generals and appointed them as ghost generals. Now, Qin's limit of ghost soldiers could be increased to 270 million. The speed at which the ghost soldiers increased was quite fast, and Zhao Fu's ghost soldier army would soon take shape. In the end, Zhao Fu went to the Devil World. Before, Zhao Fu had been quite wary of the Devil World because their power was growing too quickly and they were all incredibly savage and twisted. Once they lost control, they would be a great threat to Qin. Moreover, Zhao Fu planned to train them into the main force of Qin's army in the future, which would be even more dangerous, so he had to strengthen his control. Also, the monster world was created using the 10,000 Fey Bloodstone, which was condensed from the blood of countless monsters. The many monsters should be able to control other monsters. Although Zhao Fu had already refined the 10,000 Fey Bloodstone, he was still a little worried. This was because the danger that the monster army had displayed was too great. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu decided to use the 4 soul jades that the 4 guardian beasts had given him. The 4 guardian beasts were the heavenly beasts that guarded the 4 directions, and they controlled the source energy. Furthermore, they were distributed in the 4 directions, and they had the power to create the heavens and earth. If he fused the 4 soul jades into the Devil World, the devil world would become more like a world. Not only would the devil world's transformation speed increase, but it would also become more powerful, which would greatly benefit the devil world. At the same time, Zhao Fu's control over the devil world would deepen. Even if something happened to the 10,000 Fey Bloodstones restriction, he still had the 4 Soul Jades as a trump card. That way, Zhao Fu would not have to worry about the monster army in the future. No matter how twisted, perverted, cruel, powerful, or numerous they became, they would still be under Zhao Fu's control. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu smiled and immediately went to do what he had to. The first thing he had to do was refine the 4 Soul Jade. Zhao Fu had used blood refinement to increase his control over them, which was a bit of a pity. The 4 Soul Jades were rare treasures, and they came from the same source, which made them even rarer. After refining the 4 Soul Jades, Zhao Fu entered the devil world. The sky was blood-red, and there was a blood-red sun and a blood-red moon that shined in all directions. The ground seemed to be dyed red, and mournful howls would occasionally sound out. The entire place was filled with a strange aura. Zhao Fu stood in the air and looked around before looking away and taking out the 4 Soul Jade. The 4 Jades gave off different lights and floated around Zhao Fu. Boom, 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 boom. 4 massive explosions sounded out as the 4 pieces of jade gave off intense light and exploded out with shocking auras. As expected from the Soul Jades given by the 4 guardian beasts, the terrifying auras caused all creatures in the devil world to fall into terror, and they lay on the ground and trembled. Zhao Fu raised a hand and pointed at the blood-red sun and moon in the sky. The Soul Jades turned into 4 rays of light and shot out in 4 directions. Boom, 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 boom. The 4 Soul Jades flew to the boundary of the devil world and once again exploded out with intense light. They were like 4 brilliant suns as they shot out in 4 directions. There were 4 figures within them. One was an azure dragon, one was a flaming bird, one was a rainbow-colored deer, and one was a whale. They were the 4 guardian beasts. At that moment, Zhao Fu raised his hand and vigorously grabbed at the air. Boom! An explosion sounded out in all directions as the blood-red sun and blood-red moon in the sky fused together, forming an enormous blood-red sun. A terrifying aura suddenly descended, causing the countless devils to feel even more terrified. This was a terror that came from their bloodlines. Heaven and earth 4 directions combine. Zhao Fu loudly cried out as the 4 orbs of light shot out 4 rays of light, giving off shocking sounds as they shot into the blood-red sun. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the sun in the sky gave off an even more terrifying aura than before. It seemed to twist space itself, and the blood-red sun started to become 4 colors. The strange 5-colored sun at the center gave off a 5-colored light that covered the devil world. The entire devil world started to go through changes. Every blade of grass, every tree, every grain of sand, every rock, and countless devils seemed to be permeated by some sort of power. Everything seemed to become stronger, and space became more stable. Boom, 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 boom. 4 massive sounds once again sounded out as the 4 orbs of light sent all of their power into the sun at the center, revealing the 4 guardian beasts. By now, the 4 guardian beasts were absorbing the devil world's aura, and countless traces of blood-red aura entered their bodies, causing their eyes to become blood-red. After receiving the power of the 4 orbs of light, the 5-colored sun at the center doubled in size and gave off even more intense light. Its aura became even greater, and under this aura, none of the creatures in the surroundings dared to make a sound. After absorbing the devil world's aura, the 4 guardian beasts became extremely strange and savage, and they started to fuse into the 4 barriers. Finally, the 4 guardian beasts fused into the barrier, causing 4 figures to appear in the 4 directions. The barrier's power was 10 or so times greater than before. Chapter 1143. Zhao Fu looked at the 4-soul devil world and smiled. Now, he could relax about the devil army. Qin was currently clearing out the 3 continents, and he could capture countless people and beasts to nurture a large number of devils for Qin. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to Qin and took care of everything, feeling quite relaxed. Because the regions had not been cleared out and the Great Wall had not been built yet, the 3 continents were not part of Qin's territory. As such, the cities within the 3 continents could not be turned into official cities, so the matter of fusing with the beasts had been delayed. Zhao Fu had long since chosen the target of the fusion, which was the Corpse Soul Soldiers. The Corpse Soul Soldiers had performed quite outstandingly in this battle, and they could charge around with large shields or use massive swords to unleash the most ferocious attacks. Li Si walked into the palace and cupped his hands as he reported, "Your Majesty, the kings of the various kingdoms have sent letters to Qin. The kings of the various kingdoms have sent letters to Great Qin. What does your Majesty think of this? Go to Qin?" Zhao Fu thought about it and felt that these people most likely wanted to understand what kind of person Qin was, so he agreed to send them. Even though this would cause information about Qin to be leaked, this would be beneficial to Qin. If they could maintain good relations with the various factions, they would be able to reduce the threat that Qin posed, which was what Qin wanted. The various kingdoms sending ambassadors to Qin naturally became a hot topic. Zhao Fu did not care too much about this and left it to Li Si to deal with. He planned to head to the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. They had used up an ocean of talisman stones in this battle, and they urgently needed to replenish them. Moreover, Qin urgently needed high-stage corpses. Qin's high-stage cultivators were far inferior to the 3 worlds, so they had to quickly close this gap. Zhao Fu used the magic formation that he had created to head over. He did not use the Heaven Domain Spirit Crystal because it had not leveled up yet, so he could only teleport to nearby worlds. After reaching the inner regions, Zhao Fu encountered Bing Qixue. "Brother Zhao, you're quite a busy person. It's been a while since we last met," Bing Qixue said as he smiled. He was by himself and did not have any guards. Now that Qin had revealed himself, the Ice Origin Kingdom might be of help to Qin in the future. As such, Zhao Fu smiled and said apologetically, "I've been quite busy recently and haven't had much time to come to the ancient stem domain." Zhao Fu naturally could not reveal his true identity. Since everyone thought that he was a mysterious emperor, he would pretend to be one. As such, Zhao and the Zhao Fu Zhao of Zhao family clan, Zhao Fu could not reveal his true identity. Zhao Fu naturally would not reveal Zhao Fu's son. Fu. With his status, if he had a motive, it would not be a small matter. Zhao Fu out Zhao great. I recently opened a restaurant and their wine is extremely fragrant. Would you be willing to give me some face? Bing Qixue had been ordered to get on Zhao Fu's good side, so he invited him to try and find out what Zhao Fu's goal was. Zhao Fu smiled and agreed. After all, he wasn't in a rush. After coming to the restaurant, they found that business was booming and the best rooms were all full. Zhao Fu and Bing Qixue did not care too much, and they found a table in the hall and ordered a few dishes and a flask of wine. At the table next to them, one of the people stretched out his head and asked, "Hey, have you heard about the Qin Empire in the boundary region? Many people seem to be talking about it. Did something big happen?" Another person raised a cup of wine and replied, "I definitely heard about it. With so many people talking about it, how could I not know? In actuality, it's not too big of a deal. Compared to the inner regions, it's quite big there and shook the surrounding dozens of worlds." The person who had asked the question asked anxiously, "What's the big deal? Hurry up and tell us." The person holding the wine drained his cup in one gulp and looked at the person who had asked the question before saying, "What's the rush? The Qin Empire is actually a new world, and it only took 6 years to unify the world, allowing it to fuse into the Heaven Awaken world ahead of time. The surrounding 3 worlds thought that a big cake had appeared and wanted to invade it, but in the end, they were invaded by the Qin Empire. The situation seems to have calmed down, and the 3 worlds ceded 3 continents to the Qin Empire. Wow! The Qin Empire is so domineering to appear like this. However, the Qin Empire is quite powerful. Not only did it unify its own world in such a short period of time, but it also invaded 3 worlds right after fusing into the Heaven Awakened world. The person who had asked the question said in shock. The person who had asked the question nodded and said, "I've never heard of such a thing before. It's the first time Qin Empire has done such a thing. No matter how powerful others are, they can only invade one world, but it simultaneously invaded 3 worlds. This is incredibly rare," so news quickly spread. The third person at the table said, "Do you know about their empire's Qin Empire's emperor? I heard that he's an abnormally powerful fellow, able to fight against dozens of kings with his stage 8 cultivation. What's even more shocking is that he can use dozens of nation armaments and can cause the sky to collapse. Even dozens of kings are not a match for him." Is he really that powerful? He can use dozens of nation armaments? A single nation armament can destroy the heavens and earth, so wouldn't tens of them be able to destroy the world? The person who had asked the question said in shock. The second person nodded seriously and said, "It's true. That Qin Empire's emperor is indeed incredibly powerful and has extraordinary talent. I've heard of him before." The third person said, "He should be back in the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain. I wonder if he can enter the ancient STEM rankings. I feel that he should be ranked 26th. The person who asked the question first said, "Only 26th place? I feel that's a bit low. This is a new world, and Emperor Qin is an early king. With such boldness and ambition to unify the world, he should at least be ranked 20th. The people on the ancient STEM rankings all come from good backgrounds and have a pure royal bloodline. They also have a massive kingdom, while Great Qin's legatee fought for everything he has." Zhao Fu looked at Great Qin and said, "Great Qin's legatee, you're the legatee of the ancient STEM rankings." Hearing this, the second person nodded and said, "I quite admire that Emperor Qin Empire. I feel that he should be ranked 17th with his abilities." The third person thought about it and nodded as he said, "That's quite reasonable." Speaking of the ancient STEM rankings, the person who had asked the question asked, "AI, have you heard about someone ascending to the 10,000 dragon stage? What's his rank on the ancient STEM rankings? He should be first, right?" These words made people speechless. The second person who spoke rolled his eyes at the person who asked the question. "You're way too ill-informed. It's understandable if he doesn't know about what happened in the desolate boundary, but he doesn't even know about the 10,000 dragon stage. What ancient STEM rankings? That person is an emperor with a true sovereign bloodline. His status is so noble that even the ancient STEM rankings can't accept him because he doesn't have the qualifications. And you're saying that he's first? What a joke." Chapter 1144. Because in terms of status, strength, and bloodline, he completely crushed him. He didn't even have the slightest chance to turn things around. Zhao Fu looked quite surprised. He had just exchanged a few words with Bing Qixue when he heard the people next to him talking about Qin. What happened to Qin has spread to the inner land? Zhao Fu didn't expect such a thing to happen, because there were many worlds between them. Qin's name had spread so far, except for making Qin known, there was no benefit at all. Qin was still a small character in the desolate border, and he didn't want to attract too much attention from the big shots in the inner area. Now, Zhao Fu knew their strength, and he didn't want to be enemies with them for the time being. However, if Qin became too famous, they might take the initiative to find trouble with him. Zhao Fu was a little worried about this. Bing Qixue looked at Zhao Fu and found that Zhao Fu seemed to care about the Qin Empire. He knew some information about the Qin Empire, and he smiled as he said, "Brother Zhao, I'm quite interested in the Qin Empire. Are you interested in the Qin Empire? I know a thing or two about it." Zhao Fu understood that Bing Qixue had sensed that something was off about him. If he said that he was not interested, it would arouse suspicions. Zhao Fu also wanted to know what a top-tier figure from the inner regions thought of Qin, so he nodded. Bing Qixue lightly laughed as he started to explain. The Qin Empire is located in the western region of the ancient stem domain, and it is mainly made up of 3 races: the white race, the yellow race, and the black race. The Qin Empire that rules the world is one of the yellow race. I heard that it has a history of several thousand years. However, it is not a cultivation world. Such a world should be very weak. 3 worlds that have developed for decades should have no problem invading their world. But with the appearance of Qin, everything was different. His rise seemed to be unstoppable. He unified his world at an extremely fast speed and counter-invaded the 3 worlds. If it wasn't for Great Qin, that world would have been conquered by those 3 worlds. I'm quite interested in Great Qin, and I'm quite curious about how Great Qin is so powerful. I'm also quite interested in Great Qin's legatee. Not only does that person have exceptional talent and extraordinary abilities, but he might also have some sort of powerful technique. He is also incredibly mysterious, and he can use dozens of nation armaments by himself. This is quite shocking, and if he comes to the inner regions, I want to meet him and see just what kind of existence he is. Bing Qixue had never thought that the person in front of him would be Prince Qin. He had already seen him before. What about the Ice Origin Kingdom and the other kingdoms? Zhao Fu asked the key question. Bing Qixue replied, the various royal kingdoms are paying great attention to this. The potential that the Qin Empire has revealed is simply too great. Moreover, there have been many major events over the past few years, so everyone is paying great attention to this. In the past, there was a higher being who stayed there, but no one knows what his goal was. Also, there was the matter of the Killing Sword Master. You might not know about this, but it happened a while ago. Those terrifying ripples affected hundreds of worlds and instantly shook the entire ancient stem domain. Even the experts from the neighboring domains hurried over. That killing sword intent is definitely a terrifying concept, and it is extremely dangerous and can destroy everything. Zhao Fu's eyes widened as he looked at Zhao Fu. That killing sword intent also caused bloodlines to mutate. In the elf world in that direction, a type of killing sword elf appeared. These elves became incredibly savage, and I heard that they even established the Killing Sword Kingdom. How could Zhao Fu not know about this? He was the Killing Sword Master. However, Zhao Fu had never thought that the various factions in the ancient stem domain would pay so much attention to that direction. It seemed that he would have to be more careful in the future. Otherwise, if he attracted the attention of the inner regions, it would be quite troublesome, and if things went wrong, it would be disadvantageous to Qin. Even though Zhao Fu was Qin's legatee and the Killing Sword Master and knew about everything, Zhao Fu pretended that he did not know. He raised his cup of wine and smiled as he said, "Thank you, Brother Bing, for your answers." However, just as Zhao Fu drank his cup of wine, someone next to him said, "I heard that Qin's legatee is quite dissolute. Is that true?" Another person lightly harumphed and said, "He's not just dissolute, he's a complete stud. I heard that he gathered all of the beauties of an entire world into his palace, and whenever he conquered a place, he would immediately take all of the beauties into his palace. I heard that Qin's palace is filled with true beauties, and there are countless of them. Don't you think he's a stud?" Another person said, "That's not much. I also heard that he took all of them as long as they were female, and he even did things like a Japanese dragon." Cough, cough, this caused Zhao Fu to choke and cough. This rumor had spread too quickly, and it was not true at all. The 3 people next to him looked at Zhao Fu and did not pay too much mind as they continued to chat. "Is that true? That legatee is such a stud, but I'm so envious. When will I have such a day?" The other 2 people mocked, "Keep dreaming." Bing Qixue looked at Zhao Fu and asked caringly, "Brother Zhao, are you all right?" Zhao Fu shook his head. Bing Chishu felt at ease and lightly laughed as he said, I know a bit about that legatee Qin, but I didn't want to talk about it before. That legatee Qin is indeed quite shocking in that aspect, and he has no problems even facing female dragons. Cough, cough, Zhao Fu had just stopped coughing when he was once again choked. He definitely was not that kind of person. Bing Chishu felt quite confused, and seeing Zhao Fu choke again, he felt quite confused. At first, he had thought that the people next to him were exaggerating and had caused Zhao Fu to choke. Now that he had confirmed that legatee Qin indeed had that ability, why had Zhao Fu choked again? Alright, let's not talk about this. Brother Bing, let's enjoy some fine wine. Zhao Fu stopped coughing and raised his cup of wine, changing the topic. He could not continue talking about this. Bing Chishu would never have thought that the person in front of him was that stud. The two of them chatted for a bit longer before Zhao Fu used the excuse that he had something to do and left. Bing Chishu felt a bit disappointed, as he had not been able to get anything useful out of Zhao Fu. After leaving the restaurant, Zhao Fu headed to the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group. With the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's help, everything would be much more convenient. Before, Zhao Fu had been working with some financial groups outside the Legacy Land to buy talisman stones and corpses. Now that Qin had appeared in front of the world, he could not continue, as it would be too easy for his identity to be exposed. Moreover, even if his identity was not exposed, Zhao Fu would not continue. After all, the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's strength was not something that a few small financial groups could compare to, and they were doing business at cost. This time, the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group had collected 100 million white talisman stones, 10 million blue talisman stones, 2 million silver talisman stones, 200,000 gold talisman stones, 3,000 violet talisman stones, and 10 or so orange talisman stones for Qin. Chapter 1145. Apart from talisman stones, there was also an ocean of high-grade corpses. There were 100 million Stage 2 corpses, 10 million Stage 3 corpses, 65 million Stage 4 corpses, 220,000 Stage 5 corpses, 4,000 Stage 6 corpses, and 86 Stage 7 corpses. Qin desperately needed these high-grade corpses, and it would be very difficult for Qin to collect them. This was all because of the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group. There was also the price. If it was before, Stage 2 corpses would cost 10 gold coins, Stage 3 corpses 100 gold coins, and Stage 4 corpses 1,000 gold coins. Just this batch of corpses would cost billions of gold coins, and that did not even include the money to buy talisman stones. Adding everything together, it would most likely cost 8 or 9 billion gold coins. Even though Great Qin was quite wealthy, it could not afford to spend so much money every time it went to war. The 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's cost price was 1 gold coin per Stage 2 corpses, 10 gold coins per Stage 3 corpses, and 100 gold coins per Stage 4 corpses. This was almost free for Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu felt quite grateful. Zhao Fu thought to himself that if the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group needed anything in the future, he would repay them. After coming out of the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's VIP lounge, Zhao Fu smiled and planned to return to Qin. However, at that moment, a few cold gazes fell on Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu immediately sensed these gazes, but he did not do anything and continued to walk towards Qin. On the way, he was stopped by a few people. There were 4 people in total. One was a big man with blue hair and 4 ears. He had a large red saber at his waist, and one was dressed in night clothes that covered his appearance. From his outer appearance, he seemed to be a man. Of the remaining 2, one was a young man who was quite handsome and wore a snow-white robe. The other was a woman who looked quite flirtatious and had a graceful figure. She was quite alluring. The woman was leaning against the young man's chest, and the young man was hugging the woman, looking quite intimate. The big man was the first to call out, "Let's not waste any more words. If you want to live, hand over your spatial ring, or your elder will cut you into pieces." Robbery? Zhao Fu could not help but chuckle. This was the first time he had seen such a thing. Could it be that his performance at the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group had been too dazzling? The four of them were quite powerful, having reached stage 9. They were quite famous in the inner regions and had done many evil things. Now there were people who wanted them, and as long as they killed them, they would be able to obtain many rewards. "Kid, do you know who we are?" The burly man saw that Zhao Fu was not afraid of them and even laughed. This was simply an insult to them. As a stage 9 expert, he could be considered an expert in the inner domain. Zhao Fu looked at the big man and said disdainfully, "Then do you know who I am? Don't you know that you're courting death?" Zhao Fu did not place stage 9 cultivation in his eyes at all, because just based on Zhao Fu's current strength, he could already rival Saint Realm experts. Xing. Seeing that Zhao Fu was acting so arrogantly, the big man felt furious and drew his large saber and slashed at Zhao Fu. A massive red saber light containing terrifying power slashed towards Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and took out the Death Disaster sword. He slashed out with it, sending out a cold light that destroyed the incoming saber light. This caused the four people's pupils to constrict and their expressions to become serious. They found that Zhao Fu's cultivation was only at stage 8, but the power he could unleash was far above stage 8. It seemed that they had encountered a difficult opponent this time. The big man immediately yelled, "Let's work together to kill this boy. I feel that there's something off about this boy." He bought billions of gold coins worth of items from the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group, and my 4 ears heard him clearly. The 4 people surrounded Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. This big man's 4 ears most likely had the ability to eavesdrop, and they could even see through barriers. It seemed that he had to be more careful in the future. Boom! The 4 people exploded out with terrifying auras and simultaneously attacked. Zhao Fu first attacked, but Zhao Fu coldly laughed and was not interested in fighting with them. A massive wave of eerie ghostly chi spread out. This massive wave of eerie aura caused the 4 people's expressions to fall, and the big man hurriedly cried out, "This boy's too strange." Hurry, however, before he could finish speaking, Zhao Fu suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of the big man. His sword gave off an explosive sword light as it slashed down, and the big man's body was instantly shattered by the gray sword light. Countless pieces of his corpse flew everywhere. The remaining 3 people looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that the big man would be killed so easily. They were so scared that their bodies became covered with cold sweat, and they quickly retreated. The person in black clothes was the fastest, and just as he was about to disappear, Zhao Fu turned and gave a trace of a cold smile. The golden pupil in his left eye spun, and countless chains containing immense power shot out, piercing through that person's body. Blood flew everywhere, and that person immediately died. Zhao Fu turned and looked at the 2 lovers. The young man blocked in front of the woman and said seriously, "I'll do my best to stop him. Little sis Ru, hurry and run." The woman was deeply moved, and her eyes became moist. However, she did not hesitate to turn and run. She was quite unlucky today. Chi. The sound of a sharp weapon stabbing into a body sounded out. Before the woman had even run a few steps, she heard this sound behind her. She turned and saw that the young man had been pierced through the heart by Zhao Fu's sword, and he was unable to resist at all. Not being able to use the king's seal greatly weakened Zhao Fu's power. However, Zhao Fu still had the 6 Paths Demon Image's power, so he did not want to go through too much trouble. The woman was so scared that her legs became weak, and she understood that she could not escape. She could only kneel and cry pitifully as she begged, "Sir, don't kill me. Don't kill me, I can do anything. I will definitely serve you well, please." The woman quickly took off her dress, revealing her pure, white, and alluring body. the large things on her chest could cause anyone to feel flustered. A trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he walked over and stroked her bewitching face, and the woman seemed to be enjoying it. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu grabbed the woman's head and squeezed, causing her head to explode and blood and brain matter to fly everywhere. The headless woman's corpse slowly fell to the ground, and the dagger in her hand fell out. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, and he took out a handkerchief and wiped the blood and brain matter off his hand before continuing to fly towards Qin. A few hours later, Zhao Fu gave the corpses and talisman stones to his subordinates, which would be able to increase Qin's strength. Following this, Zhao Fu looked towards the fish scale world. Zhao Fu had long since wanted to deal with the Darkwater continent, but it was a pity that things had gone awry time and time again, so he could only delay the unification of the Darkwater continent. Chapter 1146. Before, the Darkwater continent had been a system faction and a player faction, and they each controlled half of the continent. Qin's system faction continuously absorbed the system factions of other continents, while the other side continuously absorbed the player factions. However, they were not as fast as Qin's side. Now, Qin's side had 8,000 or so cities, while the other side only had 4,000 or so cities. The difference in strength was more than twice that of the other side. By now, they knew that the Qin Empire had unified the human world and was counterattacking. With how big this matter was, it was impossible to hide it. The contract would end next year, and when that time came, Qin would most likely officially invade the fish-scale world. This made the fish-scale world feel quite terrified, as Qin's strength seemed to be enough to crush them. After all, with Qin's strength, he dared to invade 3 worlds that had developed for decades, so there was no need to even mention the worlds that had only developed for a few years. Under such immense pressure, the fish-scale world did not have a unified opinion, and many people started to have different opinions. There were even people who wanted to surrender to Qin. However, the Netherwater continent had already been ceded to Qin, and the Darkwater continent, which was closest to it, would definitely be attacked. This made it an incredibly dangerous place. As such, many people were not willing to come, affecting the speed at which they could absorb other factions. Otherwise, the system faction controlled by Qin would have become even larger, and the player faction started to want to run. This was because they had to face 2 waves of pressure. One was from Qin, and the other was from the system faction, which was becoming more and more powerful. Some people could not bear the pressure anymore. Zhao Fu felt that this was the best time to act. While their morale was low, they would be able to take down a large number of cities. That way, they would be able to obtain a large number of cities. Otherwise, if they all retreated, they would only be left with an empty territory. The 8,000 cities could have 8,000 city lords. Right now, city lords were not that important. What was important was the people with high cultivations, and more importantly, they had 800 million soldiers. Because of the contract, Qin was unable to directly interfere. The other side only had 4,000 cities, so Zhao Fu did not have to worry too much. They would definitely win. It was just a matter of how they won and how they would obtain the most benefits. Zhao Fu thought about it and made a simple plan. The player faction leaders often gathered together to discuss matters. The world was in chaos, and the situation in the Darkwater continent was not stable either. Big things could happen at any moment, making the leaders feel quite uneasy. One of them could not help but ask, "What should we do? Should we defend or retreat? We need to make a decision as soon as possible. If this goes on, our morale will hit rock bottom." Another person sighed and said, "Let's retreat. The other side's system forces are already twice as strong as ours, and we still have to worry about Qin's invasion. If we keep worrying all the time, something will go wrong sooner or later. It's possible that we'll lose before they even attack." Another person agreed. "I'm serious too. Let's retreat. I've had enough of these days of worry." Another person said, "The main thing is that Qin is likely to invade next year. At that time, the Darkwater continent will not be able to stop them. It will be a catastrophe. Otherwise, we can still fight with them." However, another person said angrily, "Then are we really going to give up on this place that we work so hard to conquer? Besides, do you think the other continents will welcome us?" This caused everyone to fall into deep thought. They were quite unwilling to give up on their current territory. Moreover, how could other continents welcome them if they went to other continents? After all, they would be taking away their territory and resources. Moreover, they had to spread out and gather in a certain continent. This was almost impossible, as they would pose too great of a threat if they gathered together. The other continents definitely would not allow them to exist, and they might even destroy them as if they were enemies. Things are bad. The other side's system forces have started to gather their forces and are attacking us. Someone reported, interrupting everyone's thoughts. Everyone felt quite startled and hurriedly asked, "How many soldiers are they sending, and which direction are they preparing to attack us from?" The soldier replied, "There are about 400 million soldiers, and they're attacking from the east." Now it was time to make a final decision. Should we fight or retreat? By now, only half of the system army had moved out, and they did not know what the other half was doing. However, it was most likely that they were going to attack them from both sides. Everyone looked at each other, and one person said, "Let's think of a way to defend against the system army first. Otherwise, with their attacks, we won't be able to retreat." Most of the people nodded, and a small portion of them only acted as if they were thinking about something else. The players gathered their forces and prepared to defend against the system army. At the same time, they received news that the other 400 million soldiers were attacking them from the other side. Just as they had thought, the system army was going to attack them from both sides. Now that City Lord seals had been removed, they were of great help to some of the weaker factions. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for them to deal with just 8,000 City Lord. At such an important moment, the player factions were split into two factions. One faction was gathering their forces to fight against the system army, while the other wanted to use others as a shield so that they could safely retreat. First, the system army was ferociously attacking, and they had twice as many soldiers as they did. It was not certain whether they would be able to defend against the system army, and even if they did, what would they do when Qin City invaded next year? They definitely could not stay here, so they wanted to retreat. Of course, they did not show this on the surface, and they did this in secret. Now that the system army was invading, they still needed others to act as shield. The player factions were all minding their own business, and Zhao Fu ordered his people to observe the players' movements. He did not immediately attack, and instead gave them time to react. This was because Zhao Fu knew that they were not united, and under immense pressure, they could fall apart. This was what Zhao Fu wanted to see. "What's going on? Why are there so few soldiers?" a player leader asked loudly as he sensed that something was off. A soldier beside him replied, "Sir, there are still some cities that have not come. There are still some cities that have yet to arrive. This subordinate has already sent people to urge them." This made the player leader feel even worse. He thought of something and hurriedly said, "Hurry and check if their cities have retreated." Soon, the soldier ran back with a pale face and said, "Sir, they've all retreated, and the people I sent were also killed." "Those bastards!" the player leader angrily cursed. That group of people had used them as shields to buy time for them to retreat. Of the 4,000 or so cities, only 3,000 or so were left. At the same time, more and more people were escaping, and it could be said that the player side was collapsing. Chapter 1147. In the end, there were no surprises. Facing the current situation, they could only choose to escape and head to another continent. However, they no longer had the chance, as Zhao Fu had received news that many people had already escaped. he immediately gave the order for the two armies to quickly attack. This time, they were not going to pincer them but to surround them from both sides, making it so that none of them could escape. This was Zhao Fu's plan. Even though some people would escape, he would be able to obtain the most benefits with the least losses. Facing the system main army's onslaught, the cities at the front were forced to fight because they could not escape at all. The people at the back did not hesitate and hurriedly ran for their lives while there were people at the front. Soon, the two armies clashed. One side was 400 million system main army against 80 million system main army, while the other side was 400 million system main army against 60 million system main army. The outcome of the battle was already decided, and Zhao Fu sent people to persuade the system main army to surrender. As long as they are willing to submit, they can enjoy the same treatment as before, and not a single one of them will be harmed. Everything from before can be written off. They can join the system factions, and the various system factions will treat them well. Moreover, they have a way to resist Qin and can promise that Qin definitely will not attack the Darkwater continent. They can even swear an oath to the heavens. Now, the Darkwater continent was going to belong to Qin, so how could Qin attack? Wouldn't that be the same as fighting against himself? As such, Zhao Fu's promise was definitely true. Facing certain defeat, Zhao Fu's proposal made the player leaders feel quite tempted, especially if they had a way to deal with Qin. After all, the fish-scale world was currently under the shadow of Qin, and this was what the fish-scale world cared about the most. However, could they really deal with Qin? Thinking about how terrifying Qin was, they could not help but feel doubtful. Only after Zhao Fu promised them many times did they slightly believe him. After confirming that the system faction would not harm them and what would happen if they surrendered, they would formally submit to the system faction. Zhao Fu immediately devoured them and continued to chase after the escaping fish-scale people. In just half a day, Zhao Fu had surrounded the Darkwater continent. Now, no one could escape from the Darkwater continent. All they could do now was slowly digest it. Along the way, Zhao Fu met many people who were willing to help him, and some of them were unwilling to surrender. Zhao Fu would capture those that he could and throw them into the four-soul devil world to turn them into devils. Those that he could not capture would be killed. Now, Zhao Fu has ordered people to study the Heavenly Realm Spirit Crystal, intending to make a kind of teleportation circle trap, which is a kind that will automatically teleport as long as you step on it. Qin's main problem is that he can't teleport over a long distance. If the research was successful, they could set up a large number of teleportation formations in a certain place. As long as they rushed people there, they would automatically be teleported to the four-soul demon realm. As for what would happen to them, it was needless to say. On the other hand, they could reduce their losses as they could avoid fighting. Moreover, they could spread rumors about rare treasures appearing in the various worlds and teleport countless people to the devil world. That way, even if Qin did not take the initiative to add people, the rumor would automatically increase and provide a large number of devils for Qin. This was quite a sinister move, and Zhao Fu would not try to justify his actions. After all, his goal was to harm people. However, humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. If he wanted something, he would have to pay the corresponding price. In the end, it took Zhao Fu 2 or so days to clear out all of the resisting factions, and the Darkwater continent was finally unified. Because the Darkwater continent's people had fled everywhere, the people from the other continents had long since heard about this, so they were not too shocked. If it was before, they would have done everything they could to stop the Darkwater continent from unifying. After all, unifying a continent was too powerful and posed too great of a threat, making everyone feel uneasy. As such, they had to interfere. However, things were different now, and they felt quite happy. The Darkwater continent was a large shield, the front lines of defense against Qin. Unifying the Darkwater continent and making it more powerful would be of great help to them. That way, they would have more hope of defending against Qin. Moreover, the Dark Water continent had to face Qin's attacks head-on, so they had to defend with all of their strength or else they would be destroyed. As such, the other factions could choose to help the Dark Water continent and reduce their casualties. What they did not know was that the Dark Water continent was not a shield for the fish-scale world to defend against Qin, but a spear that pierced through the entire fish-scale world. They had obtained 2,800 cities in total and 2.4 billion people. Because there had not been any major battles between the two sides, they had suffered very few losses. Most of the player factions' Stage 1 soldiers had fused into the system army. Now that the Dark Water continent had been unified, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. Moreover, there were some hidden dangers in the Dark Water continent. 90% of system city lords were controlled by brain bugs, and only 10% were not. Now that there were so many player city lords, it was quite a big hidden danger. It seemed that Zhao Fu had to get some more brain bugs and control all of those people. Only then would he be able to feel at ease with the Dark Water continent. However, there was no need for that. After the situation outside stabilized and the contract expired, Zhao Fu would gather his forces to invade the fish-scale world. After all, attacking a world that had developed for decades and attacking a world that had only developed for a few years was quite different. As such, Zhao Fu's goal was not to directly attack the outside world. Instead, he wanted to deal with the new worlds on both sides and increase his own strength before dealing with the outside world. That way, Zhao Fu would have the confidence and strength to do so. Because the Dark Demon world was a cultivation world, its strength surpassed that of the human world and the fish-scale world, and it was quite difficult to deal with. This was especially so now that City Lord seals could not be used, and the other side had more experts than Qin. Invading the fish-scale world was quite troublesome because they were in the water, while Qin's soldiers were land creatures. Fighting in the water was quite disadvantageous, so Zhao Fu planned to use the fish-scale people as the main force and Qin as support. Only then would he be able to destroy the fish-scale world. The Netherwater continent and Dark Water continent already belonged to Qin. The fish-scale world only had 7 continents in total, and nearly 1/3 of them were in Qin's hands. Conquering them was only a matter of time. Leveling up to a royal kingdom required 10 worlds, and Qin's goal was to become a royal kingdom. After building up his foundation like the other royal kingdoms, he would leave the ancient stem domain and head to a higher-level region. Chapter 1148. Congratulations, Your Majesty, Li Si said with a smile. The instant that Zhao Fu had unified the Dark Water continent, Li Si had received news of this. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. He returned to the palace and gave a few orders, saying, "Greatly help the Netherwater continent and Dark Water continent develop. In the future, they will be the main forces attacking the fish-scale world, so we have to increase their strength." Following this, Zhao Fu took care of some important matters. When he was free, he planned to go to the Heaven Spirit Steel to see if there were any brain bugs that he could exchange for. Brain bugs were incredibly useful, and they could be used to control leaders. They could also be perfectly imitated, and even if they could not be used in the fish-scale world, they could be used in other places, such as the Dark Demon world. However, just as Zhao Fu was halfway there, a black shadow shot towards Zhao Fu incredibly quickly. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and grabbed the black shadow. In his hand was a large, black insect. This insect was about 1 meter long and chubby, and its eyes were like black gems. Zhao Fu frowned and threw the large insect to the ground, wondering why such a large insect had appeared in the palace. However, he found that this large insect was connected to him. After looking closely, he found that this black insect was the world-cleansing butterfly. Back when Zhao Fu had given it to the flower fairy to take care of, it had only been as big as a finger. Now it had become so big, and if one did not pay close attention, one would not have noticed it. The world-cleansing butterfly lay on the ground with teary eyes, looking quite wronged. It had finally been able to see Zhao Fu, and it had happily rushed over, only to be thrown to the ground by Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu awkwardly smiled and picked up the world-cleansing butterfly. He comforted it and gave it a few high-grade medicinal pills, making it happy again. Following this, Zhao Fu put it on his shoulder. Zhao Fu did not know when the world-cleansing butterfly would become a butterfly. Zhao Fu had obtained it during the trial festival, and it had been a few years since then. However, as a world beast, not only did it control world energy, its lifespan was also several hundred times that of a normal person. Its growth cycle was extremely slow, which Zhao Fu could understand. After arriving in front of the Heaven Spirit Steel, Zhao Fu wanted to see if there were any brain bug quests he could exchange for. However, what Zhao Fu had been worried about still happened. This caused Zhao Fu to feel quite happy about unifying the Darkwater continent. This was because the higher being who had stolen Zhao Fu's origin mark had announced Zhao Fu's identity and the fact that Zhao Fu had an origin mark. This was because it was related to an origin mark, which was one of the most top-tier things in the Heaven Awaken world. In fact, some higher beings had never seen one before and had only heard of it a few times in the Heaven Awaken world's long history. Now that it had appeared, it was listed as one of the most secretive posts on the Heaven Spirit Steel, and only supreme beings could view it. However, the higher being did not choose to view the most secretive post and instead chose to view it as a public post. He forcefully took over the authority of this post and allowed everyone in the Heaven Awaken world to know about it. This person is sick. Zhao Fu felt that he was going to die because of this higher being. He had announced to the world that he had an origin mark, and even if Zhao Fu had 10,000 lives, he would not be able to survive. Ordinary people did not know what an origin mark was, but seeing that countless higher beings viewed it with such importance, they instantly understood just how important it was. It was definitely a world-shaking item. Now, on the post, all of the accounts flashed with rainbow-colored lights, revealing their identities. Seeing this scene, ordinary people did not dare to say a single word. They looked at the post in shock. It was the first time they had seen so many higher beings appear. There were 163 of them. By now, the Heaven Awaken World Forum had long since exploded. This kind of situation was incredibly rare, as the matters between higher beings were not something ordinary people could know about. As such, most people would not be able to see what the higher beings were saying. However, they had seen 163 higher beings speak on the same post. How could they not be shocked? Moreover, the number of higher beings participating was continuously increasing. The following was the content of their conversation. Is this true? There's an origin race in the Heaven Awaken world? That's a race that has existed since the heavens were opened, and I've never seen it before. It should be true. There was once a change in the Heaven Domain Heart, and it was most likely caused by the origin race. Moreover, we can deduce that the origin race was the origin human race. The one that appeared was most likely the origin human race mark. I wonder how that person was so lucky to obtain an origin mark from the origin human race. That's something that we would fight over at all costs. Brother, you said that this person should be in the desolate boundary. Please give us a more detailed location. Otherwise, with how big the desolate boundary is, how will we be able to find this person? Moreover, you only left behind a blurry image. It will be very difficult to find out who it is. Ha! The one above, you're thinking too much. An origin mark is an incredibly important item, and it can even increase one's chances of becoming a celestial. How could an ordinary person be willing to reveal such a thing and let the entire world know about it? It's evidently revenge. They've most likely suffered at that person's hands. Oh. For an existence like us to be able to do such a thing, the origin race should be by his side. Whoever provides detailed information about that person will be rewarded with 10 worlds and taken as a disciple. Ha ha ha, you'd best give up on such thoughts. The origin race has the mysteries of creation, and even true celestials would value them greatly. Be careful not to get involved, or else your 10,000 years of cultivation will be wasted. An origin human race has actually appeared? Is the human race going to rise? Are the god race, demon race, and devil races higher beings interested in joining forces to suppress the human race? Humph. Our human race never fears anyone. If you have the ability, come and fight. What troubled times. Too many things have happened in recent years. Things that could have happened in 1,000 years have all happened now. It's likely that a calamity is about to descend. This sovereign. There's nothing much to say. We can provide this person with protection. If you can see this sovereign, don't worry. This sovereign won't steal your origin mark and can take you as a disciple, a personal disciple. Bacha, old lord. Do you think anyone will believe this trick you're trying to trick a child? This person is also a human race. Otherwise, the origin human race wouldn't have given him the origin human race mark. Now that he has the origin human race mark, a human emperor might appear in the future. Recently, the human race's momentum has been a bit too great, and they're a bit too arrogant. They actually don't place our 3 upper races in their eyes. They should be taught a bloody lesson. Zhao Fu also looked at these words seriously. Zhao Fu had already seen the contents of the post. Chapter 1149. The only thing that made Zhao Fu feel fortunate was that the origin mark's appearance was quite blurry, or else Zhao Fu would have to immediately relocate the entire kingdom and escape from this place, or else he would have died without a doubt. Now that his main focus was cultivation, higher beings would be even more useful. Origin marks were rare treasures in the world, and ordinary higher beings wanted them. If his identity was completely exposed, he would be hunted down by countless higher beings. That would be quite terrifying. What should he do now? Even though the location was quite blurry, it meant that he was at the boundary. The figure was quite blurry, but it looked like him, so those higher beings might be able to find him. Zhao Fu felt quite troubled. He had developed so well with so much difficulty, and his future had been so bright. However, such a thing had happened. Facing higher beings, Zhao Fu felt quite powerless. Should I relocate the entire kingdom? Escape from this place? That was definitely not possible. Qin's foundation was here, and so many of its subjects were here as well. They could not relocate at all. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out in Zhao Fu's mind, and Zhao Fu sensed something and looked towards the sky. His 3 emperor stars were giving off brilliant light, as if they were defending against something. Zhao Fu's heart tightened, and he had a bad feeling that something was about to happen. The golden dragon within his body said, "A higher being wants to use heaven-defying methods to divine your location. However, you don't have to worry. With the protection of your 3 emperor stars and boundless heaven's secrets, even a higher being will not be able to divine your exact location." Hearing this, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief and asked, "What should we do then? If a higher being really finds this place, Qin will not be able to resist at all." The golden dragon thought about it before replying, "Only by leveling up to a royal kingdom will you be able to leave the boundary region and head to the true inner regions." Zhao Fu knew about this, but destroying 9 worlds was not an easy matter and could not be done quickly. Suddenly, Zhao Fu thought of a person, which was the higher being who loved to read books. Perhaps he would be able to give him some good advice. Of course, Zhao Fu would not be so stupid as to say that he was someone with an origin mark. "Senior, are you there?" Zhao Fu cautiously sent a message over. He had to be careful when talking to such a big shot. After waiting for a while, the Almighty replied, "Yes. What's the matter?" "I just wanted to ask, you should have seen the post about the origin mark, right? What do you think?" Zhao Fu asked carefully. Hee, that kind of thing is a rare treasure in the world. Most people would be interested in it. And don't tell me you're the person in the post? When Zhao Fu saw the last sentence, he was greatly startled. However, he understood that the other party had already guessed his identity. After all, a person would not ask about an origin mark for no reason. There had to be a reason, and it was a question to a higher being. If Zhao Fu explained that he was curious, it would be too fake, because this could be known by reading ancient books. Since the other party had already guessed his identity, Zhao Fu did not hide it anymore. He felt that this higher being was not a bad person, and there were many things he wanted to ask him, so Zhao Fu boldly admitted, "I'm the owner of that origin mark." "Haha, you're quite honest. You're most likely afraid that many higher beings will find you, so you want to ask this sovereign what to do, right?" Zhao Fu bitterly smiled. He had never thought that the other party would immediately see through him. He felt that he was still a bit naive, and Zhao Fu once again admitted it. As a higher being, he definitely had his ways. This is indeed quite difficult to deal with. Many people want that thing, and once your true identity is exposed, you'll definitely die. This sovereign won't be able to help you, and did that origin human not protect you? If he was present, as the origin race's power, he might be able to protect you. Zhao Fu sighed. Tuoba Qing had left for a long time, and it seemed that her power had not recovered yet, so she could not protect him at all. Thinking about it like that, it was quite sad that he had to rely on his woman to protect him. She left and can't protect me. In that case, you'll have to find an even more powerful person to protect you. However, don't hope that this sovereign will be able to protect you, as even this sovereign doesn't have that kind of power and won't be able to defend against so many higher beings. Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite disappointed. It seemed that he would have to rely on himself. However, the higher being's next words caused Zhao Fu to feel quite delighted. This sovereign has a suggestion that can resolve this crisis. A look of delight appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he hurriedly asked, "What is Senior's suggestion? Do you know about Emperor Path College? It's one of the Heaven Awakened world's 7 great colleges, and it has 9 higher beings and even a half-step celestial. If you can enter Emperor Path College, you'll most likely be protected. Also, there are many things in Emperor Path College that will be of great help to you. You should go there to study." Zhao Fu seemed to have read about Emperor Path College in the Holy Book Pavilion before, but he did not think too much about it. He had never thought that it would have such a great background, and it even had a half-step celestial. Was he going to go there and become a student? Thinking about that, Zhao Fu could not help but laugh. Back then, for the sake of power and dominance, Zhao Fu had not hesitated to drop out of school. Now, for the sake of power and survival, he was going to enter Emperor Path College. However, he was in a remote region, and Emperor Path College was most likely in the Heaven Domain. They were so far apart, and if Zhao Fu wanted to go, it would take him a few years to get there. Moreover, where would he go? What would happen to the Qin Empire? He could not just give up on the Qin Empire for his own life, right? Or could he find a successor for Qin Empire before leaving? Zhao Fu thought about this idea before immediately rejecting it. The Qin Empire was something that Zhao Fu had built up from a small village to where he was now. He had poured almost everything into it, and giving up on it was something that Zhao Fu could not do. However, he now had to face another problem. What would he do if that higher being came? Not only would he die, but the Qin Empire that he had built up would also be destroyed. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu could only refuse the higher being's suggestion and say, "I'm afraid I won't be able to do that because I'm in a remote region and have my own empire. I can't go to the Heaven Domain." "Haha, that's quite easy to solve. This sovereign will give you an item that will allow you to project yourself into Emperor Path College. This is a privilege that only special students have, and the goal is to solve your situation. After all, the heaven-awakened world is simply too big. Zhao Fu was delighted and said, "Thank you, Senior. If you need anything in the future, I'll do my best to help." Chapter 1150. If you want to thank this sovereign, you can help this sovereign collect some interesting books in the future. However, this sovereign needs to remind you that as one of the heaven-awakened world's 7 great colleges, the difficulty of the Emperor Path College is not something ordinary people can imagine. It's best that you prepare yourself. This sovereign has given you the opportunity, but whether or not you can pass the Emperor Path College's examination will depend on your own abilities. If you fail, you'll have to think of other methods. Also, it's best that you unleash all of your power and show the higher-ups of Emperor Path College your potential. That way, they'll pay close attention to you and provide you with protection. With Emperor Path College's protection, very few people in this world will dare to touch you. Of course, in order to avoid trouble, don't reveal that you have an origin mark for now unless it's absolutely necessary. Remember this, or else you'll have to hide within Emperor Path College and won't be able to come out until you become a higher being. Seeing this, Zhao Fu felt incredibly grateful and thanked the Golden Dragon a few times. Following this, 2 items were sent over through the Heaven Spirit Steel. One was 3 meters long and was silver-white. It looked like a staff, but one end was incredibly sharp and there were many runes flashing on it. The second item was a blood-red gem that was as big as a palm and was hexagonal. It gave off a faint blood-red light and looked like a treasure. Projection Tool. This item can release a projection formation and form a projection domain that can project people extremely far away. It is a top-tier projection tool. Projection Jade. This item can be fused into one's chest and can be used to control the projection's power. At most, it can be used to project one's true body, which has all of the true body's power. However, the damage received will not be reduced, so please use it with caution. Zhao Fu looked at the 2 items and found that there were no problems with them. The projection also needed to be set up, and that higher being had already set it up so that it could be projected near Emperor Path College. After obtaining these 2 items, Zhao Fu decided to give them a try. Now that he could directly head to the Heaven Domain, Zhao Fu had never thought that he would be able to see the Heaven Domain. Even though it was just a projection and there were many restrictions, being able to see the Heaven Domain was quite good. Zhao Fu, you'd better be careful. Don't trust others too much. When you're projecting, you'd better choose the lowest projection, the Golden Dragon reminded him. Hearing this, Zhao Fu nodded. This was indeed true. After all, Zhao Fu was not very familiar with that powerful being, and they had only occasionally exchanged a few words. Moreover, this was a matter of life and death, so there was nothing wrong with being a bit more careful. If he was careless and was caught, Zhao Fu would not even have a chance to escape when facing a higher being. The only result would be death. Golden Dragon, what do you think of that powerful being's suggestion? Become a student of the Emperor Path College and receive protection. Zhao Fu thought this was a good idea, but he felt that it would be better to ask the Golden Dragon, who knew more than he did. The Golden Dragon did not object and said in agreement, Emperor Path College is a good choice. When the Heaven Murder Empire still existed, it already existed. Our Emperor was once a student there, and its strength is incredibly terrifying. With its protection, very few people would dare to harm you. That place will be of great help to you. I originally planned to let you enter the Emperor Path College after you reach the Heaven Domain, but now that you've entered it so early, it's a good thing. It will allow you to understand the situation in the Heaven-awakened world. Hearing that the Golden Dragon agreed, Zhao Fu felt at ease and prepared to project his projection. He first stabbed the projection tool into the ground, and a powerful aura exploded out as a massive magic formation spread out. A silver ray of light shot into the sky and a silver-white barrier formed. It was about 100 meters wide and was filled with silver motes of light. Zhao Fu then placed the projection jade on his chest. The projection jade seemed to have a suction force, and it sucked into Zhao Fu's chest before slowly fusing into Zhao Fu's body. Standing within the magic formation, Zhao Fu started to project his projection. The silver-white motes of light within the barrier quickly spun, forming a vortex with Zhao Fu within it. A massive power started to enter Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu slowly closed his eyes. When Zhao Fu next opened his eyes, he was on a barren land. Right now, Zhao Fu's body was the lowest grade projection, and he only had a few % of his original strength. His body looked quite hazy. Moreover, there were many things that had not been projected, such as Zhao Fu's weapon, inner armor, and spatial ring. There was only a set of clothes, and there was nothing else. This was the lowest grade projection, and Zhao Fu could already predict such an effect. Moreover, a projection could not use spatial items. Not only could it not use spatial rings, but it also could not use spatial items. After arriving here, Zhao Fu felt a dense wave of spirit qi flow towards him, and there were even more stable heaven and earth laws. He felt that staying here would make his cultivation speed many times faster, as expected from the center of the heaven domain. Zhao Fu looked around, and according to the senior, he was next to a small city near Emperor Path College. Zhao Fu followed the information and headed to that small city, wanting to see what the real heaven domain was like. The king's seal was not projected, and Zhao Fu could not fly, so he could only walk. However, the small city was most likely not too far away. However, before Zhao Fu could walk very far, a black shadow suddenly attacked, causing Zhao Fu to feel quite startled. Before he could do anything, the black shadow pierced through Zhao Fu's body, causing Zhao Fu's hazy body to instantly collapse. Zhao Fu felt quite speechless as he opened his eyes. He had just seen an azure little bird attack Zhao Fu, and it had about stage 3 strength. Zhao Fu had been instantly killed. Because Zhao Fu had chosen the lowest grade projection, he only had stage 3 strength, so even if he died, he would not suffer much damage. Zhao Fu had chosen to use his true body projection, which was the highest grade projection. Before, he had gone to see if there would be any danger, but it seemed that there would not be much danger. Zhao Fu's true body projection could still be used, as well as his equipment. However, he had to be careful. If Zhao Fu was killed here, he would truly die. The same was true for his equipment. If he was damaged here, his main body would also be damaged in the outskirts. With his main body's strength, he did not have to fear these wild beasts anymore. Otherwise, with his previous strength, he would have been ravaged by ordinary wild beasts. This proved the strength of the heaven domain. Ordinary wild beasts had that kind of power, and now that he could fly, Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and shot over the horizon. Chapter 1151. After flying outside the city, Zhao Fu stopped. The city was covered with restrictions, and it was evident that flying was not allowed. There was a group of white-armored soldiers standing guard outside the city, and the ordinary soldiers here all had stage 5 cultivation. This made Zhao Fu feel quite shocked. After all, stage 4 or stage 5 cultivation was equivalent to city lord cultivation in Qin City, while these were only ordinary soldiers. If they were captains or generals, who knew how high their cultivation would be? These white-armored soldiers all had spiraling dragon inscriptions on their chests, which were unique to Emperor Path College. As one of the Heaven Awakened World's 7 great colleges, Emperor Path College governed a large region that was at least 100 worlds. From this, one could see just how powerful Emperor Path College was. Moreover, it had existed before the Heaven Murder Empire, and perhaps it would be able to unravel the mysteries behind the Heaven Murder Empire's destruction. Zhao Fu had always been quite curious about this because even with how powerful the Heaven Murder Empire was, it had still been destroyed in the end. The historical remnant had appeared in the human world, and Zhao Fu wondered if there were any legacies left behind. Most importantly, he had many enemies. Qin City had a close relationship with the Heaven Murder Empire, and Zhao Fu's bloodline was the Heaven Murder bloodline. Zhao Fu had to pay an entrance fee here, and Zhao Fu took out 2 silver coins. Copper coins had lost all value here, and the lowest currency was silver coins. Zhao Fu originally did not have any money because spatial items could not be used. Even if he had money on him, it would be a projection item and could not be used. Zhao Fu had obtained these coins by casually killing a few wild beasts and selling them to merchants outside. After entering the city, Zhao Fu looked around curiously. There were many people everywhere, and there were hawkers calling out their wares on the street. It was quite lively. Zhao Fu could not even count how many races there were. Death race, Asuras, orcs, elves, demon race, water race, some had ferocious faces, some had a single horn, some had 4 arms, some had green eyes like a snake's, some were tall and had a mouth full of fangs, some had scales on their bodies, some had only 1 eye, and some had a humanoid shape. The various races were simply dazzling. The Heaven Domain was the center of the Heaven Awakened world, and it was a place where billions of races gathered. It was understandable that there were so many races. First, he had to keep a low profile. Zhao Fu bought a cloak and wore it before going around to see the Heaven Domain's customs. Before, Zhao Fu would have stayed in the outer regions for a while, but now that he had come to the Heaven Domain, he had come to the Heaven Domain. This was quite good for Zhao Fu, and he would be able to know the situation in the Heaven Domain in advance. After walking around, Zhao Fu felt that it was a pity that he could not use some spatial items. After all, there were many treasures that ordinary people could not see in the Heaven Domain, and Zhao Fu wanted to buy some to bring back to Qin. However, that was not possible because Zhao Fu was only a projection, and his real body was still within Qin. After looking around the city, Zhao Fu headed to his destination, which was the Emperor Path College. There was a teleportation channel here that could directly take him to the Emperor Path College. A while later, Zhao Fu arrived at the gates of the Emperor Path College. The walls were made of white bricks, and each brick was extraordinary and had dragon inscriptions on them. There were 2 stone pillars with coiling dragons at the entrance, and there were 9 golden dragons on each pillar. They did not seem to be carvings, but living creatures. They swam around the stone pillars as if they had used some kind of powerful energy to seal the 9 golden dragons within them. The signboard above also had golden dragons coiled around it, and there were 4 mighty and powerful words. Emperor Path College. The Emperor Path College looked incredibly domineering and majestic, and it gave off a powerful emperor's aura. As expected from the Emperor Path College, there were 8 guards at the entrance, and all of them had powerful auras. Their cultivations were above stage 9, and they were most likely in the Saint Realm. Zhao Fu could not say much. In the outer domains, Saint Realm experts were absolute experts and could be counted as the highest cultivation. However, here they were just guards. Sensing how powerful the Heaven Domain was, Zhao Fu could not help but lower his stance. There were many people here who could casually crush him to death, so he had to be careful. Zhao Fu only looked around for a while before returning to Qin. The Emperor Path College's recruitment period had long since passed, and he would have to wait for another 3 years. After all, the Emperor Path College only recruited students once every 3 years. During this time, Zhao Fu felt that he had to make some preparations. Only after seeing the Heaven Domain situation did he realize how minuscule and powerless he was. Moreover, in 3 years, he had to perform exceptionally well among the Emperor Path College's new students. Only then would he be able to attract more attention and ensure his safety. However, the world was so big, and with so many peerless geniuses, Zhao Fu did not have much confidence. In the future, he had to quickly increase his cultivation. Zhao Fu had only cultivated for 6 years, while others had cultivated since they were young. The difference in cultivation between them was quite great. However, if he could join the Emperor Path College and obtain powerful protection, Qin and Zhao Fu's safety would be guaranteed. They would not have to constantly worry about being destroyed by a higher being, and that would be one of their biggest worries. Of course, he could only hope that no higher being would find this place within 3 years, or else everything would be over. After returning to the palace, Zhao Fu read through memorials for a few days and took care of some matters before coming before a massive sea of blood. This place had originally been a blood lake, but Zhao Fu had expanded it to 1 million meters wide, making it look like a sea of blood. The blood-red qi in the surroundings covered the surroundings, almost forming a blood-fiendish aura. Everything in the surroundings was dyed blood-red, and the pungent stench of blood caused all of the beasts in the surrounding 100 kilometers to not dare to come close. This was where Qin had refined the primogenitor statue. After unifying the world, Zhao Fu had given the order to expand the blood lake. Not only did it gather the blood of all races in the human world, but it also gathered the blood of the humans who had conquered the 3 continents and obtained a large number of people. With such an ocean of blood, the speed at which the primogenitor statue was refined became 10 or so times faster. Now they did not have to wait for hundreds of years. They would be able to refine the primogenitor statue within 10 years. Now the primogenitor statue lay at the center of the blood lake, and it had gone through great changes. It now had jet black hair and its skin was slightly black. Its hands gradually looked like sharp claws, and it looked like an Asian person. Japan's 3 divine armaments had condensed into 3 massive orbs of blood and were located above the primogenitor statue's head. They were also going through changes, and the ripples they gave off were quite terrifying. Zhao Fu felt great anticipation towards the primogenitor statue, and he hoped that it would be able to refine it soon and unleash its terrifying power. Chapter 1152. Is this true? Within a hidden room, a bearded man asked seriously as he looked at the person in the shadows. The person in the shadows lightly laughed as he said, "I've personally investigated this matter, so when have I ever made a mistake? However, the reward should be 3 times as much. This is getting rid of a major threat to the grassy world, and the Qin Empire might use this to destroy the grassy world. As such, the value of this information should be doubled." Moreover, the expert who had descended to the Lalai kingdom was most likely Qin's imperial prince, and he had forcefully taken control of the Lalai kingdom. The leaders of the various branches of the royal family had gone from plotting a rebellion to fully supporting him, and it was most likely that they had been controlled by brain bugs. Back when the Blue Wolf Kingdom had been destroyed, if Qin had not used the countless powerful wyverns and kept his identity a mystery, no one would have thought that it was Qin who had done it. Now, all of the mysteries regarding the Lalai kingdom had been solved. The assassination of the king was most likely done by Qin, and his goal was to help the Lalai kingdom develop. Moreover, the Blue Wolf Kingdom was most likely controlled by Qin. This was because it had already been destroyed, and it had been restored with the help of the Lalai kingdom. The Qin Empire wanted to use this to plant a pawn in the half-beast world. Now, both kingdoms were not weak, and they had the strength of a Marquiate kingdom. Moreover, they wanted to devour other kingdoms, and they were currently in a cold war. The bearded man coldly harumphed, "Money is no problem, but I never thought that Qin's imperial prince would have started his plans so early on. Everything was premeditated and incredibly sinister. Did the Qin Empire also plant a pawn in the elf world?" The person in the shadows thought for a moment before saying, "Both the grassy world and half-beast world have pawns, so it's impossible that the elf world doesn't have pawns. However, Qin was quite secretive, so it's impossible to determine which kingdom is under Qin's control." The bearded man's expression was grim. Fortunately, they had discovered Qin's plan, or else their 3 worlds would have fallen at his hands. This was no small matter. After thinking for a while, the bearded man took out a storage ring, threw it to the person in the shadow, and said, "This is your reward. I hope you can continue to collect all the information about Qin as well as the plan. The person in the shadows looked at the storage ring and lightly laughed as he said, "That's no problem. I'm also a member of the grassy world, so it won't benefit me if Qin destroys the grassy world. I'll do my best to help you." Then, the bearded man secretly convened a meeting and told them the information he had obtained. Everyone's expressions changed. They hadn't expected Qin to have such a trick up his sleeve. Fortunately, they had discovered it early. Otherwise, if it had backfired at a critical moment, they might have been killed by Qin. What should we do now? Should we destroy the two countries now, or follow Qin's plan and give Qin a fatal blow at the critical moment? I think it's better to choose the second option. Right now, Qin shouldn't have discovered that we've discovered his plan. We can follow Qin's plan and give Qin a fatal blow at the critical moment, greatly reducing Qin's strength. Then, we can deal with him properly. I agree with this method. As a new world, Qin is very strong, but he doesn't have enough foundation. After a fatal blow, it will be very difficult for Qin to recover. In the future, Qin won't have to be afraid. Good. I also agree. If Qin wants to kill us, we'll kill him. I also think this method is good. What do you think? We'll use this method to follow Qin's plan and wait for it to backfire. Most people nodded and felt that this method was very effective. They could catch Qin off guard and give him a heavy blow, which would allow them to win. No. However, at that moment, someone objected. It was the bearded man. Everyone looked at him strangely and asked, "This method is good? Why can't it work?" The bearded man explained, "The two countries already have the strength of a level 1 Marquiate kingdom, and they are not weak at all. One occupies 1/7 of the continent, while the other occupies 1/6 of the continent. They are already giants. Are you going to let them develop? Moreover, Qin will definitely do his best to help them develop. By then, they will be completely out of control. By then, they will occupy half of the continent's territory and will be extremely powerful. Once they work together, we will lose 2 more continents. Most importantly, we won't be able to stop them because we don't have the power to do so. Firstly, Qin is too strong, and secondly, the other two have become very strong. You have to understand that we don't have many continents right now. If we follow Qin's plan, we'll be nurturing a tiger that will invite calamity. By then, we won't be able to give Qin a fatal blow, but we'll lose ourselves." Hearing this, everyone came to a realization. They had overestimated themselves and underestimated Qin. If they followed Qin's plan, it was possible that they would not be able to harm anyone, and they would instead be killed. We can only get rid of these 2 chess pieces to prevent any future problems and boost the morale of our 3 worlds, someone said coldly. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Following this, everyone started to gather their forces and attack the Lei Kingdom and Blue Wolf Kingdom, planning to destroy these 2 kingdoms as quickly as lightning. At that moment, Zhao Fu received news that Qin's intelligence network had spread out, and they had mobilized their forces. Zhao Fu instantly understood that Qin's plan had been exposed. Without hesitating, Zhao Fu ordered the Lei Kingdom and Blue Wolf Kingdom to retreat to the 2 continents that Qin occupied. At the same time, they gathered all of their forces. It was possible that a massive battle would erupt. Only now did Lu Yu and Song Xuanu know Zhao Fu's true identity. There was no need to hide anything, so Zhao Fu told them everything and ordered them to immediately relocate. The various armies were about to destroy them, and if they wasted any more time, it would be too late. Lu Yu and Song Xuanu were incredibly shocked. They had never thought that Zhao Fu was the famous Qin's emperor, the ruler of the Qin Empire. Lu Yu could not help but think about Zhao Fu's promise to her, which was to make her the most noble woman in the grassy world. This was not to help the Lei Kingdom become the most powerful kingdom, but to conquer the grassy world. Thinking to there, she felt quite complicated, but she did not think too much about it. The Lei Kingdom and Qin were deeply connected, and most of the Lei Kingdom's forces were under Zhao Fu's control, so she had no other choice. Chapter 1153. Zhao Fu did not care about their wealth, but what he cared about was their population and cities. As such, he ordered them to give up everything and escape to the continent that Qin controlled. Otherwise, the people of the two kingdoms would all die at the hands of the various factions. The various factions quickly heard about the two kingdoms retreating. At first, they had hidden themselves and wanted to launch a sudden attack to wipe out the people of the two kingdoms. However, now that their plan had been exposed, they no longer held back and ferociously killed their way towards the two kingdoms. They spread the news that the two kingdoms were traitors, causing the two kingdoms to fall into a state of chaos. The neighboring kingdoms seized this opportunity to quickly conquer the two kingdoms' territory and obtain great benefits while delaying the two kingdoms' retreat. They then used the various factions' armies to destroy the two kingdoms. These two kingdoms had become marquate kingdoms, and they each had thousands of territories. After destroying these two kingdoms, they would be able to divide up their territories. The surrounding kingdoms suddenly attacked, causing the two kingdoms to stop retreating. After all, with the other kingdoms attacking, they could not retreat at all. In the end, they could only order all of their soldiers to stay behind and defend against the other kingdom's invasion while their residents continued to evacuate. Time was of the essence, and the various kingdoms seized this opportunity to attack the two kingdoms. The two kingdoms hurriedly sent out soldiers to defend, and their residents hurriedly evacuated. The various factions' armies quickly rushed towards the two kingdoms, and Qin hurriedly gathered his troops. Kill! These two kingdoms are traitors to our world. Don't let a single one of them go. The armies sent out by the closest kingdoms formed a flood and rushed forwards with an aura that shook the surroundings. At the front, the soldiers of the two kingdoms had already set up simple defenses and were waiting for the other kingdoms to attack. Behind them were countless residents fleeing in fear. Perhaps because they had suddenly become traitors, the morale of the soldiers of the two kingdoms plummeted, making the situation quite disadvantageous. If this went on, they would definitely lose. If they could not stop these soldiers, they would not be able to retreat. A general riding on a warhorse shouted, "Don't talk about right and wrong, they're here to kill your family and friends. If you don't want your family and friends to die by their blades, you can only fight." This caused the low morale of the two kingdoms to rise. They could not think about whether this was right or wrong. All they could do was protect their family and friends and allow them to safely evacuate. However, the number of soldiers from the allied countries was several times that of the two countries. Their ferocious aura caused the surrounding air to become somewhat oppressive. The general riding on his warhorse stopped and came to the front of the army, looking at the incoming army seriously. As an old general of the Lelai Kingdom, his gaze was resolute as he once again yelled out loudly, "The Lelai Kingdom's great Qin Kingdom is a great Qin Kingdom. Facing so many of them, are you afraid now? Remember, as a soldier, protecting the country is your duty. This time, it's not only for the country, but also for the safety of countless people. Although we will die honorably on the battlefield." The soldiers' gazes became resolute as they looked at the incoming army. They gripped their weapons, causing the heavens and earth to fill with killing intent. "Charge!" The general at the very front raised the spear in his hand and loudly roared as he led a group of cavalry and charged towards the attacking armies like an unstoppable flood. "Kill!" The armies of the other kingdoms also sent out a group of cavalry that charged towards the grassy cavalry with ferocious momentum. Clang, 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 countless sounds of metal clashing sounded out as the two groups of cavalry ferociously clashed. A shocking aura spread out and rushed into the clouds as both sides started to fight. On the other side, the armies of the other kingdoms flooded forwards, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to destroy everything. The grassy side had already formed a defensive formation, making them look like an indestructible mountain. Boom! A deafening sound rang out as the ferocious tide slammed into the mountain, causing a deafening sound to ring out. A great battle had erupted. Spears stabbed out from behind the shield wall, piercing through the people charging up, causing blood to spurt out. Some shield-bearers were sent flying by the massive force, and those charging up charged into the shield wall, causing pained cries to continuously sound out. The people from the grassy and half-beast worlds continued to rush over. With their combined strength, destroying these two kingdoms would be incredibly easy. However, at that moment, Qin's army finished gathering and once again ferociously attacked the two worlds. This did not surprise the people from the two worlds, as they had guessed that Qin would do this to protect the two kingdoms. As such, they quickly gathered their forces and started to defend. Roar! 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 On Qin's side, the beasts gave off heaven-shaking roars, and massive and violent auras caused the weather to change as if a disaster had descended. Zhao Fu's beast army was the first to attack, but it was not very effective. The two worlds had long since made preparations to deal with Qin's beast army, which was something that could resist large creatures. Bang! 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 On the grassy world side, a large amount of green light shot out, dyeing the sky green. Massive spears shot out, dragging rays of light behind them as they shot towards great Qin's beasts. Roar! 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 On the half-beast side, they summoned half-beast monsters that roared as soon as they appeared. These monsters' auras were powerful, and their blood-red eyes were filled with savagery and madness as they attacked Qin's beast army. It was not just these two worlds that had started to fight. The elf world was evidently of one mind, and they gathered their forces to attack Qin's beast army. Boom! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the ground violently trembled. Towering trees that were 70 or 80 meters tall grew arms and legs, and they even had human faces. These were the ancient treants that the elf race controlled. Zhao Fu had left some defensive forces in the elf continent and did not focus all of his forces on attacking the two worlds. As such, he did not have to worry about the elf world attacking. The sudden battle shook the heavens and earth, causing the world to be filled with an austere aura. The surrounding worlds were completely caught off guard, and they had never thought that the two sides that had just reconciled would suddenly erupt into such a large-scale battle, making them feel quite shocked. Luckily, both sides had restrained themselves, and after some casualties, the battle stopped. The Blue Wolf Kingdom and Lalai Kingdom retreated to Qin's kingdom with great difficulty, and they had suffered heavy losses. Only 70% of their residents had been able to retreat, and only 30% of their soldiers had returned alive. The battle had only calmed down for a short while, and it was not over yet. Both sides had large armies guarding the boundary, and the smell of gunpowder was quite intense. If they were not careful, they could explode again. Chapter 1154. Within the palace, Zhao Fu sat on his throne and listened to Li Si report on the casualties of the battle, as well as the casualties of the two kingdoms. A trace of anger appeared on his face. Even though they had quickly retreated, they had still suffered great losses. The beast army did not have a great advantage, and could not sweep through the three worlds. However, Qin still had an advantage in terms of numbers. Before, Zhao Fu had wanted to develop the two kingdoms and use them as chess pieces to turn the situation around. He had never thought that they would be discovered so early on, and they had suffered a loss at the hands of the three worlds. Luckily, the Killing Sword Kingdom's identity had not been revealed because this matter was related to another person, the Killing Sword Master. He was someone who had shaken the entire ancient STEM domain and caused countless experts to flock to him. The elf world did not dare to offend such an important person. They would never have thought that Zhao Fu was the Killing Sword Master, nor would they have guessed that the Killing Sword Kingdom was Qin's chess piece. However, this was a special time, so they had to be careful and not develop the Killing Sword Kingdom. This cut off Zhao Fu's plans of developing the outside world, and Zhao Fu could not help but turn his gaze to the two worlds next to the human world. However, before Zhao Fu could think for too long, he received news that Emochi had started to attack the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. Qin's matter had been leaked and could not be hidden. They already knew that the Qin Empire had unified the world and had counter-invaded the three worlds, and they also knew about Qin and the three world wars. The close relationship between the Night Dynasty and Qin caused the Dark Demon world to feel that something was off. In the Dark Demon world, Qin had used a large number of wyverns and corpse soul commanders, as well as the 8 aquatic beast kings. In fact, almost everyone knew that Qin had used them to unify the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. As such, they had long since confirmed that there was no mysterious faction behind the Night Dynasty, and that there was only Qin. This made sense. After Yi Tsang ascended the throne, everything that had happened to the Night Dynasty had been under Great Qin's control. In the end, Great Qin had risen up, established a kingdom, and unified the southern continent of the Dark Demon world. It turned out that the mastermind behind all of this was Great Qin. Everyone from the Dark Demon continent thought to themselves that Great Qin was quite insidious and had long since set this up. At the start, Qin's aura was too powerful, and they could not do anything. They could only wait for an opportunity to strike. However, now that they knew that Qin was fighting with the three worlds, they did not hesitate and decided to take action. They wanted to take back the Dark Demon continent. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu felt a headache coming on. Now, the three worlds were tying up most of Qin's forces, and now that the Dark Demon world was in chaos, Zhao Fu could only send forces to support the Night Dynasty. Otherwise, the Night Dynasty would not be able to defend against their attacks by itself. Luckily, they had signed a contract with the Fish Scale world, so they could not attack. Otherwise, Zhao Fu would not have any soldiers left. After all, Qin was fighting against 4 worlds at the same time, and all of his forces were tied up. He could not send out many soldiers to defend against the Fish Scale world's invasion. Zhao Fu had already sent out his 3 most trusted generals. Wang Jian was responsible for defending the Fish Scale world, Bai Qi was responsible for the 3 worlds outside, and Wei Liao was in charge of the situation in the southern continent. If Zhao Fu wanted to continue making arrangements, he would not have any other choice. He could only continue to fight in the Fish Scale world and secretly set up his chess pieces there. With the situation in the other 4 worlds, it was impossible for him to continue making arrangements. If he did, he would most likely be discovered, resulting in unnecessary losses. If they could control another continent in the Fish Scale world, Great Qin would control 3 continents. The Fish Scale world had 7 continents in total, which meant that almost half of the world would fall into Great Qin's hands. In the future, there would be much less resistance in unifying the Fish Scale world. Facing the Fish Scale world, Zhao Fu was mainly worried about fighting underwater. If it wasn't for that, Zhao Fu would not be so worried about the Fish Scale world. After making this decision, Zhao Fu ordered people to gather information on the various continents in the Fish Scale world and see which continents were suitable to attack. Gathering information required some time, so Zhao Fu used the remaining time to cultivate. Zhao Fu did not forget about his trip to the Emperor Sky Academy in 3 years, so he had to obtain good results. After all, that was the center of the Heaven Domain, where the geniuses of countless worlds gathered. If he did not work hard, it was possible that he would be oppressed. As such, Zhao Fu could not afford to be careless at all, so he used all of his free time to cultivate. The bright red sun descended into the mountains, and stars appeared in the night sky, twinkling with starlight. Night fell, and every family lit their lanterns, illuminating the cities in the darkness. Zhao Fu sat cross-legged on his bed with his eyes tightly closed. The human-shaped crow giving off a fiery light gradually disappeared into Zhao Fu's chest, and the heat in the surroundings gradually subsided as a jade rabbit gradually appeared. Countless traces of gentle moonlight were drawn over and covered Zhao Fu's body. After obtaining these 2 devil marks, no matter if it was during the day or at night, Zhao Fu had greatly improved. During the day, the Sun Devil would help Zhao Fu gather a large amount of extreme yang qi, and at night, the Moon Devil would help Zhao Fu gather a large amount of extreme yin qi. However, cultivating like this had some side effects, and it caused a trace of devil qi to appear in Zhao Fu's power. Zhao Fu did not feel that it had much of an effect, so he did not pay it much mind. Soon, Zhao Fu's cultivation was interrupted as the people collecting information on the fish scale world had returned, and they brought with them a piece of surprising news for Zhao Fu. There were actually people who had taken the initiative to contact Zhao Fu and express their willingness to serve Qin. Some people could not withstand the pressure from Qin's world-destroying might, so some people wanted to surrender so that they would not have to worry about Qin's threat. While Qin had been secretly collecting information, they had also secretly sent messages to Qin, expressing their willingness to submit to Qin. In order to be cautious, Zhao Fu first ordered people to investigate these people, and after confirming that they were willing to submit to Qin, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face. Now that they had come to him and were willing to submit to Qin, Zhao Fu would not have to go through so much trouble to find other targets. Moreover, they were right next to the Darkwater continent, making it even easier for Zhao Fu to make a move. According to the information provided, their faction was not very powerful, and it was formed from 5 or 6 smaller factions. They occupied 10 or so regions, and they were waiting to be taken in by Qin. Now that Zhao Fu had accepted their surrender, they were overjoyed. They had never thought that they would attract the attention of Qin's emperor. If they performed well in the future, they would be able to obtain a high status in Qin. If Qin conquered the fish scale world, their statuses would be the highest among the fish scale people. Chapter 1155. Zhao Fu gathered his subordinates to discuss how to help that small faction develop quickly. They could not be too obvious, nor could they develop too slowly. This was a special situation, and everyone was on edge. If they were not careful, they might be discovered. There had already been a precedent, so Zhao Fu had to be careful. With Zhao Fu's immense power, he could even attack the fish scale world. As such, he could not develop too slowly, as he did not have much time left for Qin. Qin could be discovered at any moment, and once he was discovered, he would die. Zhao Fu had to quickly raise Qin to a royal kingdom and leave the boundary region to head to the inner regions. However, because of the contract, Qin could not directly act, and he could not reveal any of his methods. Otherwise, they would immediately discover that it was Qin who had done it. A minister walked out and cupped his hands as he said with his head lowered, "Your Majesty, this minister has a suggestion. Right now we can't use Great Qin's power, so we can only nurture their own strength. We can give them a large number of blood god pills and countless pieces of equipment and create chaos, giving them an opportunity to rise up." Following this, he gave a detailed explanation of this method, and Zhao Fu felt that it was feasible. Qin already had a shocking amount of stage 1 blood god pills, and the fish scale people's cultivation was around stage 0 to 6 or 0 to 7. If they were given a large number of blood god pills, they would be able to produce a large number of stage 1 soldiers. If they were given a large amount of good equipment, their strength would not be low, and they would be able to rise up and become a usable army. At the same time, this was not part of the contract, so Zhao Fu could do it. The most important thing left was how to create chaos and provide them with an opportunity to rise up. This was left to the 11 assassins, who were Zhao Sha's 11 people. They would first leave Qin and join the fish scale people to carry out assassinations. The main task was to assassinate the leader. If the leader of a faction died, the faction would fall into chaos, and this was the most direct method. Zhao Sha's 11 people's assassination abilities were incredibly powerful, and after Zhao Fu obtained the Darkness Soul Jade from the historical remnant, they had perfectly fused with it. Not only did their assassination abilities increase, but their power also increased, and they also had a trace of the Darkness bloodline, which further increased their assassination abilities. Right now, their cultivation was just right at the 7th order, but it was not difficult for them to assassinate a 9th order powerhouse, so it was not wrong to give them this mission. Subsequently, Zhao Fu also carried out the plan. That force now had a total of more than 40 million people. It was not a small force on that continent, but in the eyes of Qin, it was still too weak, because Qin could easily conquer the continent now. Zhao Fu had personally brought a large number of blood god pills and equipment, causing the fish scale people to feel incredibly excited. They had never thought that the Qin emperor would personally come, and they hurriedly knelt and paid their respects. Seeing their attitudes, Zhao Fu felt quite pleased and smiled as he said, "As long as you are truly willing to submit to Qin, we will not mistreat you." Following this, Zhao Fu took out a large number of blood god pills and equipment for them, allowing them to quickly increase their strength. They felt incredibly grateful towards Zhao Fu. They had not done anything at all, yet they had received so many rewards. A week later, their factions had greatly increased and met Zhao Fu's requirements. Only then did Zhao Fu start to carry out his plan. With the current situation in the fish scale world, it was impossible for small factions to survive by themselves, and they would be easily destroyed. The only ones that existed were large factions or alliances formed by a few small factions. This faction was the one that was loyal to Zhao Fu, and it was called Little Scale. It had 3 alliances and 1 nation legacy. The other 3 alliances were about as strong as Little Scale, and they were White River, 6 Jade, and Qi Yu. The nation legacy was called the Guyu Nation, and it did not have a very long history. However, it was very powerful and could suppress the 4 alliances by itself. The only good thing was that this nation legacy did not have a nation armament, which made things much easier to deal with. Zhao Fu first had Little Scale ally with the 3 other alliances to destroy the Guyu Nation. The surrounding alliances were suppressed by the Guyu Nation and were threatened by it, so it was impossible for them to not act. As such, allying together would be quite easy. Just as Zhao Fu had expected, he had Little Scale's people write a letter, and the 4 alliances easily allied together. In actuality, they all had intentions of allying together, as the Guyu Nation was simply too powerful, and they would not be able to stop it by themselves. Following this, Zhao Fu planned to ally with the 3 other factions to attack together. When the time came, he would have people assassinate the leaders of both sides and have them fight to the death. Both sides would be heavily injured, and he would then reap the benefits. However, the 3 of them were not willing to do this. They felt that it was not time yet, and with their current strength, they would suffer great losses if they fought against the Guyu Nation. This would not be beneficial to their development. As such, Zhao Fu could only give up on his original plan and carry out his second plan. That night, within the Guyu Nation's palace, a powerful-looking fish-scale person sat on a throne. Hearing the report from his subordinates, he coldly harumphed and said, "The 4 of them allied together and want to fight against the Guyu Nation's enemies? They're simply seeking death. Gather our forces and follow this king to destroy them." One of the ministers hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, we can't act rashly. The 4 of them combined are much stronger than the Guyu Nation, and we definitely won't be able to forcefully attack them. We have to think of other methods." The powerful-looking fish-scale person looked quite displeased as he said, "What can we do? This king needs to quickly destroy them and increase our own strength. Only then will we have a chance of resisting the Qin Empire." The minister replied, "The 4 of them allied together on the spur of the moment, and it was Little Scale who initiated it. How about we befriend the 3 factions and destroy Little Scale before attacking them one by one?" The other ministers nodded in agreement. This was the safest method, and directly attacking the 4 of them was quite risky. After the meeting concluded, the Guyu nation went according to their plan. They planned to send gifts and establish good relations with the three other factions. They would first destroy Little Scale, who was trying to cause trouble. However, late at night, 11 figures snuck into the Guyu nation's palace and into the palace. The king had stage 8 cultivation, but because he had a fate dragon and was within a legacy city, he quickly woke up. However, in the next moment, a magic formation suddenly appeared on the ground, and a formless domain soundlessly spread out. It was the assassin domain. Chapter 1156. In actuality, just Zhao Sha alone would be enough to easily kill this fish scale king. In order to be safe and end the battle quickly, Zhao Fu sent 11 of them to attack. A single one of them could kill a stage 9 king, and with 11 of them working together, how could the fish scale king survive? After killing the king, the 11 people did not try to hide anything and made a scene. Zhao Sha held a devil saber and rushed at a group of guards. Countless blood-red arcs of light shot out, and in just an instant, 10 or so people's bodies were cut into pieces. Blood and organs fell to the ground, and a pungent stench of blood spread out. News of the king's death spread like wildfire, causing the entire kingdom to be shaken. No one had thought that such a thing would happen, and the kingdom fell into chaos. The other three factions had never thought that the king would suddenly be assassinated. Just then, Little Scale had said that they would ally together to destroy the Guyu kingdom, but they had said that this was not an opportunity. Now, the opportunity was right in front of them. Now that the king had died, there was no one to lead the kingdom, and the other factions began to fight over the position of king. This caused the kingdom to fall into chaos, and this was the best opportunity for them to destroy the Guyu kingdom. The three of them quickly contacted Little Scale, and the four of them took this opportunity to attack together and destroy the Guyu kingdom. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and had Little Scale's people accept their invitation. The four factions planned to attack from 4 different directions. The 3 other factions gathered a large number of soldiers and impatiently wanted to charge into the Guyu kingdom. They wanted to divide up the Guyu kingdom's territory, resources, and population so that there would no longer be anything that could threaten them. Little Scale's side was not in a hurry to attack, and they gathered their entire army. They had around 30 million soldiers, and all of them had used blood god pills. Their cultivations were definitely higher than ordinary fish scale people's, and their equipment gave them immense confidence. The Guyu kingdom hurriedly gathered 3 armies to defend against the 3 invading kingdoms, and the 2 sides quickly started to fight. However, Little Scale's side was only preparing and did not attack. Zhao Fu was waiting for both sides to suffer heavy losses. Because the 3 alliances were currently fighting with the Guyu kingdom's army, they did not have the time to worry about Little Scale and focused on the battlefield. Kill! The 3 allied armies gave off ferocious auras as they charged towards the Guyu kingdom. Their auras were quite powerful and they went all out, wanting to destroy the Guyu kingdom. The Guyu nation's morale was quite low because their king had just been assassinated. They had not even chosen a new king yet, and facing the 3 allied armies, they were starting to lose and showed signs of defeat. The sounds of battle were deafening, and the sounds of weapons clashing continuously rang out. Blood splattered everywhere, and the battle was intense. People fell one after another, and the aura of death continued to spread. In the end, the Guyu kingdom still lost, and the 3 allied armies flooded into the Guyu kingdom. They quickly conquered cities and regions and looted all of their resources. At this time, they also learned that Little Scale actually didn't attack, and they couldn't help but feel angry. This clearly wanted them to risk their lives while he reaped the benefits from behind. They had paid a great price in this battle, making them feel quite furious about Little Scale's actions. The 3 allied armies decided that after destroying the Guyu kingdom, they would destroy Little Scale together and divide its territory. That way, this region would be split into 3 parts. Thinking about that, the three allied armies became high-spirited. If they could devour the Guyu kingdom and Little Scale, they would become a large faction and would have a decent status in this continent. The Guyu kingdom hurriedly elected a new king. Now that the defensive line had been broken through by the three allied armies, the kingdom was on the brink of destruction. The royal families of the kingdom did not have the heart to fight amongst themselves, and they banded together and gathered their remaining forces in preparation for a decisive battle. Soon, the two armies once again clashed. By now, the three allied armies had gathered together, forming an even more ferocious tide. The Guyu kingdom constructed simple defenses and put up a final resistance. Today is a day of life or death for the Guyu kingdom. If you win, you will be heroes of the Guyu kingdom, and if you lose, you will be sinners of the Guyu kingdom. This is the final moment. Defend the Guyu kingdom to the death. A valiant-looking general riding on a seahorse-like creature shouted to the countless soldiers behind him. We swear to defend the Guyu nation with our lives. They vowed to defend the Guyu nation with their lives. I swear to protect the Guyu nation with my life. Countless soldiers also shouted. This was a moment of life and death, and it was also their last chance. They had to fight to the death for their beloved country. Battle intent and hot blood surged out. The Alliance army was not weak either. A leader stood in the sky and shouted, "Kill! As long as we break through the last line of defense, no matter if it's a woman or a treasure, it will belong to whoever gets it. Those who perform outstandingly will be promoted by 3 ranks." This caused the Alliance army's morale to soar to the extreme. Women, treasures, and power were the things that stimulated their brains the most. With this order, the Alliance army charged at the Guyu nation's army, giving off an unstoppable aura. Boom! A loud sound erupted as both sides fiercely collided. Weapons clashed fiercely, and blood and screams rang out incessantly. A fish-scale person's expression was savage as he stabbed his spear through the bodies of 2 Guyu nation soldiers and continued towards the other Guyu nation soldiers. A Guyu nation soldier loudly roared as he held his saber and rushed forward. Zhao Fu stood in the distance and watched this battle. It had to be said that in the later stages, everyone had experienced a baptism of slaughter and death, and their battle intents were far from what they had been before. It was not just the fish-scale people, but even the cowardly humans had become stronger. The environment could change a person, and if one could not adapt to a cruel environment, they would only die. Zhao Fu did not pay too much attention to these 4 factions, as they were just 4 small factions. Together, Zhao Fu could easily destroy them. The situation was quite unfavorable for the Guyu nation. Before, they had lost many people because of their panic, and now that they had fewer people, even though their morale was about the same, they would still lose. Seeing that it was about time, Zhao Fu did not have any interest in continuing to watch. He ordered Zhao Sha and the others to assassinate the leaders of the Allied army. After losing their leaders, the Allied army immediately fell into chaos, and the Guyu nation's army started to counterattack. The Allied army miserably retreated, but the Guyu nation did not have time to feel happy because Little Scale's army, which they had been waiting for a long time, appeared. Looking at Little Scale's soldiers, who had powerful auras and excellent equipment, the Guyu nation's soldiers felt despair. Chapter 1157. Now, Little Scale wanted him to develop for a while. After he gathered enough strength, he would continue to expand, and his goal would be complete. Zhao Fu returned to Qin City and heard that the 4 sides were in a stalemate, and it would be like this for a long time. They would not be able to break through Qin City's defenses, and Qin City would not be able to do anything to them. As such, the only way out was through the fish-scale world. At the same time, Zhao Fu received news from the inner regions of the ancient STEM domain. It was from the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group, saying that they were going to attend the ancient STEM banquet together. It was jointly organized by the 5 large sects, 20 royal kingdoms, and a few large financial groups. The Ancient Stem Banquet was one of the biggest events in the Ancient Stem domain, and not only would there be all sorts of treasures, but there would also be all sorts of races. This was especially so for geniuses. After all, the Ancient Stem rankings would be updated, so all of the geniuses had to attend. Of course, the rewards would be incredibly great. Thinking about how this was an event held by all of the top-tier factions in the Ancient Stem domain, the rewards would definitely not be disappointing. Zhao Fu was quite interested. This time, the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group had asked Zhao Fu to attend as an elder of the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group, and their attitude was quite sincere. After thinking about it, Zhao Fu agreed. Now that the four sides in Qin City were in a stalemate, he did not have much to do, and perhaps he would be able to obtain many benefits. There were still 5 days until the Ancient Stem Banquet, so Zhao Fu was not in a rush. He returned to his palace and continued to cultivate. By now, Zhao Fu's cultivation was at the peak of Stage 8, and he was just a bit away from Stage 9. A day later, a muffled explosion sounded out as a powerful aura exploded out. A black aura flame appeared around Zhao Fu's body, giving off a faint black light as Zhao Fu's body once again went through changes. An hour later, the aura around Zhao Fu's body stabilized, and he once again opened his eyes as a black light flashed. Now, Zhao Fu's cultivation was at Stage 9. His power was not something that Stage 8 could compare to, and his constitution had become stronger. His mind and comprehension had also gone through changes. Zhao Fu did not stop cultivating. Instead, he continued to cultivate and took out a blood pill. This blood pill was as big as a dragon's sun and was blood-red in color. It gave off a jade-like luster and gave off a powerful might. This was a blood god pill refined from a Saint Realm expert's corpse, so it was not something that ordinary blood god pills could compare to. The current Stage 9 and the 9 Great Realms were 2 completely different stages of cultivation, and the difference in power was like the difference between heaven and earth. Saint Realm experts were incredibly difficult to kill, and Zhao Fu had only been able to do so with external help. These corpses were from the corpses that Zhao Fu had obtained after invading the Three Worlds. Fortunately, the nation armaments power had not been destroyed, or else if Zhao Fu had faced so many experts, his outcome would have been quite tragic. Zhao Fu consumed the blood god pill, and as soon as it entered his stomach, it gave off an intense light as a blood-red domain spread out and covered Zhao Fu's body. This was the power of the Saint Realm. Back then, that higher being had asked Zhao Fu what the Saint Realm was, but Zhao Fu had not reached that level of cultivation, so he naturally could not answer. However, after using the blood god pill, Zhao Fu now understood what the Saint Realm was. The Saint Realm was about transcending mortality and entering holiness. Whether it was one's constitution, lifespan, or power, they all went through fundamental changes. The Saint Realm's constitution had gone through fundamental changes. Not only was his flesh and blood incredibly powerful, but he could also refine medicinal pills like spirit medicines and had decent effects. His lifespan had also greatly increased, and it was now many times longer than before. Finally, there was power. The power that the Saint Realm wielded was a type of Saint Realm power, and it surpassed the power that Stage 9 experts could unleash. In fact, it was not even on the same level. The Saint Realm used one's body to form a domain, and within this domain, one was the ruler. The power that one could unleash was similar to source energy. It was different to normal domains, such as the Emperor's domain that Zhao Fu had comprehended. This was something that one had comprehended, and it leaned towards the mind. On the other hand, the Saint Realm domain used one's flesh, blood, bones, and tendons as the foundation, and it leaned towards the body. As such, refining a Saint Realm corpse like this allowed one to obtain a high-grade blood god pill while still retaining the Saint Realm's power. At the same time, Saint Realm corpses had all sorts of powerful effects and could be used in many ways, so they were quite rare. They were worth 10 or so times more than a Stage 9 expert's, and they were quite expensive. The blood-red domain was 3 meters wide, and Zhao Fu was within it. However, because he was only at Stage 9, it was not easy for him to refine the Saint Realm's power. However, after refining it, his body's power and constitution would become much stronger. After refining it for a while, Zhao Fu had only refined less than 10% of it, which was quite slow. There was nothing Zhao Fu could do, so he could only think of other methods. He thought of using his terrifying sovereign bloodline to forcefully refine the Saint Realm's power. Now, Zhao Fu's sovereign bloodline was one of the most terrifying sovereign bloodlines, and refining the Saint Realm's power would be quite easy. Zhao Fu started to activate his bloodline's power, and his bloodline started to boil before quickly flowing as a black aura flame appeared around Zhao Fu's body. This aura flame quickly expanded, and it filled the entire blood-red domain in the blink of an eye. The blood-red domain became thinner at a visible rate, and its power was quickly refined. Zhao Fu's body quickly absorbed the Saint Realm's power, and the blood-red domain became thinner and thinner before finally disappearing. After refining the Saint Realm's power, Zhao Fu's power greatly increased. However, the increase to his constitution was quite weak, as Zhao Fu's constitution was simply too powerful. After stabilizing his power, what surprised Zhao Fu was that there was now a blood-red domain within his body. This domain was quite special, and it was like an item within Zhao Fu's body. Moreover, it had a strong connection to him, and more accurately speaking, it was like a part of his body. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand, and the blood-red domain floated out of his palm. At first, it was only as big as a marble, but it soon became as big as a rubber ball, and it looked like a transparent blood-red bead. This blood-red domain contained great power, which belonged to the Saint Realm. He could use the power of the Saint Realm at Stage 9 cultivation? Thinking about that, Zhao Fu felt quite interested and started to closely examine the blood-red domain. He found that it could be used as an ordinary domain, a Saint Realm domain, and even a special weapon. Zhao Fu condensed the transparent blood-red bead into an awl, which was also transparent and 30 centimeters long. Chapter 1158. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a powerful shock wave blasted open the doors and windows, causing countless rocks to fly everywhere. Zhao Fu looked outside in shock and saw that there was a crater that was hundreds of meters wide in the empty space outside, with the all that Zhao Fu had condensed at the center. This destructive power was simply shocking. After all, Qin City's palace had countless restrictions, and the floor tiles were made of incredibly tough materials. Hearing these abnormal sounds, the soldiers in the surroundings thought that something had happened and quickly hurried over. They looked at the crater in shock and hurriedly asked, "Your Majesty, are you all right? Are you all right?" Zhao Fu waved his hand, indicating that he was fine, and he had them leave. With a thought, the all within the crater flew back and stopped in front of Zhao Fu, turning back into a transparent blood-red sphere. This Saint Realm domain was quite powerful, and Zhao Fu felt that it would be quite useful. Most importantly, Zhao Fu found that his body could withstand many Saint Realm domains. In other words, he could have many of these blood-red spheres. A single Saint Realm domain was already so powerful, and if he had a large number of these Saint Realm domains, the power he would be able to unleash would be incredibly terrifying. In the Emperor Path College's examination in 3 years, these Saint Realm domains would definitely be a powerful tool for Zhao Fu. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu grinned and felt a bit excited. Zhao Fu took out another Saint Realm Blood God pill and swallowed it. A blood-red domain once again expanded out, and Zhao Fu started to refine it. Because Blood God pills could only be used once, if Zhao Fu used them again, his cultivation would not increase. However, Zhao Fu did not care too much, as his goal was to refine the Saint Realm domains and make them his weapons. 7 hours later, There were now 7 transparent blood-red spheres floating around Zhao Fu's body. However, this was far from enough, as Zhao Fu's body could still withstand many more Saint Realm domains. However, Zhao Fu did not have any more Saint Realm Blood God pills, and Zhao Fu felt that Zhao Fu was quite wasteful. He had actually wasted such precious Saint Realm Blood God pills that could greatly increase one's cultivation. However, Zhao Fu felt that it was worth it. After all, the trip to Emperor Path College in 3 years was incredibly important to Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu would do anything to increase his strength. Right now, he did not have any Saint Realm Blood God pills, and it was quite difficult to obtain Saint Realm corpses. As such, Zhao Fu could only order people to go to the inner regions of the ancient stem domain. It would be relatively easy there. If he asked the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group, they would be able to Zhao Fu, the price, and Zhao King. And the Saint Realm God and Saint Realm, Fu had many corpses and a total of 65 Saint-level corpses were brought back. Among them, there were elves, humans, orcs, demons, merfolk. Altogether, there were 72 of them. This was the maximum number of Sage Realm domains that Zhao Fu's body could withstand. This was mainly due to the support of Zhao Fu's powerful bloodline. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to withstand a single Sage Realm domain. In the following days, Zhao Fu turned to refining the Sage Realm domains and refined all of them into his own. 3 days later, under a blue sky and white clouds, a light breeze blew as Zhao Fu stood in the air. There were 72 transparent blood-red orbs floating around him, giving off a terrifying aura as they spread out, making people feel quite shocked. Zhao Fu looked at the ground below before stretching out a hand and pressing down on the air. The 72 transparent blood-red orbs smashed towards the ground with immense force. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out as the transparent blood-red orbs smashed towards the ground like meteors. Countless grains of sand were thrown into the air, covering the sky and causing the ground to tremble. After everything settled, Zhao Fu looked at the 72 craters on the ground and gave a pleased smile. He could not help but try again before returning to Qin City. With the 72 Saint Realm domains, even though Zhao Fu was only at stage 9, his aura could only be released by a Saint Realm expert. Not too long after returning to Qin City, Zhao Fu received news that he had found a godly spirit altar that could summon godly spirit. It was something that Qin had found while clearing out the half-beast continent, and he was preparing to move it back to Qin City. This godly spirit was a weak godly spirit and an evil god that required blood and flesh sacrifices. In actuality, many weak godly spirits were evil gods. This was because evil gods did not use normal methods to condense their divinity and instead used shortcuts. Even though it was easy to become a god, they were still too weak. To Qin City, this godly spirit was just a tool to strengthen things. After moving the altar back, Zhao Fu prepared to summon another godly spirit before killing it and refining it to obtain divinity. Because the human world did not have the protection of the heavenly domain boundary and city lord seals could not be used, Zhao Fu decided to personally take charge of killing a godly spirit to prevent anything unexpected from happening. Divinity was incredibly useful, and Qin City had only killed 2 godly spirits clones, so he had only obtained 2 orbs of divinity. This was mainly because the altars of weak godly spirits were not easy to find, and Qin City did not dare to offend powerful godly spirits. Some godly spirits could descend with their true bodies, and some high-grade godly spirits were even more powerful than higher beings. Many higher beings felt quite wary of the godly spirits in the godly spirit world and did not dare to offend them easily. Even higher beings had to be wary of them, so Zhao Fu had to be careful. He was only bullying some weak godly spirit. The altar was quickly moved back to Qin City, and he once again prepared for the sacrificial ceremony. Because he had experienced this twice, everything was still there. For example, the pillars next to the altar were still there, and there were people and beasts tied up. A priest raised his staff as he stood on a black altar and chanted a strange incantation, causing the black altar to give off a faint light. After praising the altar, the priest yelled, "Venerable evil-toothed god, please descend." Swish, swish, swish. Just as the priest spoke, the black altar gave off an intense black light, and a massive, formless suction force exploded out. Arg! The people and beasts tied up around the altar looked terrified and howled. Their blood was sucked away by that power, and they gradually turned into dried-up corpses, looking quite terrifying. Countless traces of blood-red chi gathered above the altar, forming a massive blood-red vortex that created a wild gale. Boom! Chapter 1159. A figure slowly appeared in front of everyone. It was a humanoid creature with a large head and no hair. It had a mouth full of fangs and looked like an elderly person. Its skin was gray-white and it had many wrinkles. It held a wooden magic formation and was completely naked. Its aura was incredibly powerful and could cause people to feel terror. This was the evil god that Zhao Fu had summoned. There were only a few people here, and the main person fighting was Zhao Fu. Right now, whether it was the corps or the generals, they were all fighting in the four worlds, so they could not gather any soldiers here. The spatial ceiling magic formation had already been activated, and the evil god sensed that something was off. Its gaze was cold as it looked at Zhao Fu. Needless to say, after a large battle, Zhao Fu held a black tongue of flame. This time, nothing unexpected happened. Zhao Fu had thought that the evil god's true body would descend, but nothing happened. The evil god's clone was not very powerful, so Zhao Fu was able to easily kill it. Zhao Fu refined the evil god's body and obtained its divinity. This divinity gave off an evil aura and was slightly weaker than the demon god's divinity. As for how to use it, Zhao Fu planned to use it on the giant wolf den. Out of all of the beasts, the giant wolves were the weakest. If he fused with this divinity, the giant wolves that spawned would have a trace of the evil god's bloodline and would become more powerful. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a black pillar of light giving off a terrifying aura shot into the sky, and countless wolf howls sounded out in the surrounding thousands of kilometers. Zhao Fu fused the divinity into the giant wolf den, and all of the giant wolves started to go through changes. Their bodies became even larger, and their eyes became pure black. Their mouths became filled with fangs, and they looked quite ugly and terrifying. Sensing the changes to the giant wolves, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a satisfied smile. The giant wolves now had a trace of the evil god's bloodline, and their names had become Evil God Giant Wolves. They were definitely much more powerful than before. After taking care of some matters, Zhao Fu suddenly remembered that today was the Ancient Stem Banquet, so he hurried over to the inner regions of the Ancient Stem domain. By now, there were countless people gathered on a massive stage. As the largest gathering in the Ancient Stem domain, there were naturally countless people participating. There were all sorts of races present, and the scene was incredibly lively. Some of the big shots were also sitting on the spectator stands to the side. The people below were divided into small groups, and almost every small group was led by one person. The leader of the group naturally had the most powerful auras, and each of them was the most outstanding person from their race. They all proudly raised their heads and gave off arrogant auras, showing off their extraordinariness. Suddenly, the crowd became incredibly noisy because a red-haired man giving off a powerful aura had appeared on the stage. As soon as he appeared, he was like an orb of searing flames, causing the surrounding temperature to continuously rise as waves of heat swept out. The people around him automatically made way for him because the person in front of him was the young master of the volcano sect, Huiyan, who was ranked 10th. He mainly cultivated fire-type techniques and had already reached an extremely high level. Huiyan felt the gazes from all around and laughed arrogantly. He walked towards the volcano mountain sect. Sensing his aura, everyone whispered amongst themselves. Huiyan's aura had become so powerful, and it was twice as powerful as the previous year. The waves of heat that he gave off were unbearable, and he would most likely be able to enter the top 6 this time. Someone immediately retorted, "That's hard to say. If Huiyan can become stronger, then so can others. Let's wait for the others to come and see." Following that, waves of powerful aura descended upon them. Bing Qixue and his 2 guards calmly smiled as they appeared. His extraordinary aura and handsome face attracted many people's gazes, and many young women even screamed. Bing Qixue was quite popular. The 8 Origin Dragon sect's young master, Long Yang, had been grounded and could only stay within the 8 Origin Dragon sect to prevent him from causing trouble. However, because of this gathering, he had come out. Long Yang happily smiled as he walked up from the stage. Behind him were 7 peerlessly beautiful women, and they also attracted many people's gazes. Roar! A roar suddenly sounded out as a massive creature heavily landed on the ground, sending out a shock wave that made it difficult for people to stand steadily. That figure was a terrifying bear with a pair of savage and blue eyes and jet-black fur. Its body gave off a devilish chi that flooded out, causing people's hands and feet to feel a chill. The bear's figure slowly disappeared, and a young man with a trace of arrogance appeared on the stage. He was the Bear Mountain Kingdom's 3rd prince, and he had enmity with Zhao Fu before. He was called Xiong Shao, and he was ranked 6th on the ancient STEM rankings. Boom! A massive aura once again descended as a beautiful woman with a mature figure and tanned skin wearing tight-fitting clothes appeared on the stage. She had a confident smile on her face and had a mature figure. She was called Gu Qingyue, and she was the young master of the ancient god sect, one of the 5 great sects. She had a cheerful and heroic personality and was quite popular in the ancient STEM domain. As soon as she appeared, many people smiled and went to greet her. She was ranked 8th on the ancient STEM rankings, 1 rank higher than Bing Qixue. Whoosh! An eerie and ghostly wind blew, causing people's hairs to stand on end. They could not help but feel terrified as they turned and saw a man wearing gray clothes and giving off an eerie and cold aura. He was Yu Qianyue, the prince of the Nether Yin dynasty, one of the 20 royal kingdoms. Sensing this eerie and cold aura, everyone could not help but say, "This Yu Qianyue's aura was so powerful, and just looking at him made them feel afraid." They wondered what rank he would be able to reach. He definitely would not be ranked low. He was currently ranked 7th on the ancient STEM rankings. He. A few flirtatious laughter suddenly sounded out, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. They could not help but look over and see a peerlessly beautiful woman with an alluring figure and a group of female attendants in a red dress. She was Jiu Shaoyun, the Wine Sun Kingdom's princess. She was quite powerful and was ranked 6th on the ancient STEM rankings. Looking at her alluring figure and flirtatious aura, everyone could not help but gulp, and some people even started to loudly call out her name. Could be seen that she was quite famous in the ancient STEM domain. Humph, vixen. A young woman coldly harumphed as she appeared in front of everyone. She wore a green dress and looked quite exquisite, and the aura she gave off was also quite powerful. She was the Greenwood Kingdom's princess and had the Greenwood bloodline, which increased one's lifespan and caused one's body to develop slowly. As such, even though she looked 15 or 16 years old, she was actually in her 20s. "Oh, little girl, you've come as well." Hearing the young woman's words, Jiu Shaoyun did not feel angry and instead gave a flirtatious smile. Moreover, she emphasized the words little girl. Chapter 1160. Her name was Qing Muzhen, and she was ranked 5th on the ancient STEM rankings. Boom! Another powerful aura descended, accompanied by a sharp killing intent, causing everyone to feel as if they had fallen into an icy cavern. Their bodies stiffened, and they turned their heads to look at the black-clothed young man walking up the platform. Ling Shang was ranked 4th on the ancient STEM rankings and was the young sect master of the mystic spirit sect. His appearance caused the entire scene to fall silent because his killing intent was simply too powerful. Zhu Xiaoyun and Qing Muji, who had been bickering, could not help but stop and look at Ling Shang seriously. They could feel that his power had become much more powerful, and it gave them a lot of pressure. Facing these gazes, Ling Shang remained expressionless as he walked towards an empty space. The countless people in the surroundings automatically made way for him. No one dared to block his path. Even the big shots on the viewing platform could not help but comment, "This Ling Shang's strength is advancing really quickly. He should be a strong contender for the top 3. His future is limitless." The others nodded their heads after hearing this, while the sect leader of the Mystic Spirits sect looked at Ling Shang with a smile. Ling Shang's performance did not disappoint him. Suddenly, countless celestial tunes rang out and multicolored light shone down from the sky, causing countless people to instantly sink into a beautiful melody, as if they were unable to extricate themselves. Everyone saw a group of fairies in white flying down from the sky. The woman in the lead was tall and wore a white palace dress. She wore a white veil and gave off the aura of a goddess. Behind her was a group of female attendants in white dresses, each of them holding various musical instruments, all of them beautiful and moving. Everyone could not help but sigh in amazement because she was the #1 beauty in the ancient STEM domain and was ranked 3rd on the ancient STEM rankings. She was the young sect master of the heavenly music sect, Ruoshi. Time gradually passed, and soon, it was time for the ancient STEM banquet to begin. Everyone looked at the horizon in anticipation because the 1st and 2nd rankers on the ancient STEM rankings had not arrived yet. The 2 of them were undoubtedly the most outstanding geniuses in the ancient STEM domain, and their talent and comprehension were things that no one could compare to. Adding on Ruoshi, they were known as the ancient STEM 3 heroes and were peerless geniuses that countless people looked up to. Their names shook the entire ancient STEM domain, and even people in the outer domains knew of them. However, even though the ancient STEM banquet was about to begin, the 2 of them still had not appeared, causing everyone to feel quite worried. Had something happened? At the same time, the people from the 10,000 Dragon Merchant Association were also anxious. What's going on? Was the message delivered accurately? Why hasn't that emperor come yet? One of the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's elders asked one of their subordinate. The follower's forehead was covered in sweat as he said, "This subordinate has confirmed that the message has been delivered." The imperial prince even replied that he might have been delayed by something when he returned. This subordinate will send someone to contact him. The elder heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That's good. This is a time for the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group to show off our strength. With him supporting us, we won't be weaker than their royal kingdoms. The higher-ups want to use this opportunity to deepen our relationship." Clang, 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 countless sword hums suddenly sounded out as the swords at the waists of countless people seemed to sense something and continuously trembled, causing countless people to feel quite shocked. Suddenly, a massive sword intent covered the entire area, causing countless people to look incredibly shocked. Under this sword intent, they felt as if their bodies were going to be torn apart. Boom! Everyone looked into the distance, only to see a sharp sword light shooting over, as though it was going to slice the heavens and earth apart. In an instant, the sword light landed on the platform, and a young man dressed in green with a long sword at his waist appeared. His appearance caused countless people to feel quite shocked, as that sword intent was simply too powerful and could cause people to feel immense terror. It seemed that the major figures on the stage also looked at this young man with interest. This young man was called Gu Jian, and he was the legacy disciple of the ancient sword sect master. He was a genius in the sword that had not appeared in the ancient STEM domain in hundreds of years, and his talent was supreme, causing countless people to submit to him. Gu Jian's expression was cold as he looked around, as if he did not place anyone in his eyes at all. The person he cared about the most did not seem to have come, making him feel quite disappointed. However, in the next moment, he sensed something and looked into the distance. The clouds in the distance suddenly changed as a five-colored ray of light giving off a powerful aura shot over. Sensing this aura, countless people looked over. Boom! The five-colored ray of light landed on the ground and a boundless aura spread out, causing countless people to feel incredibly small. They all looked incredibly shocked as they looked at where the ray of light had landed. After the light dissipated, a handsome-looking young master dressed in white holding a folding fan appeared before everyone. He was Bai Haoran, the #1 person in the ancient STEM domain, and he was the focus of everyone's attention. The massive aura that he gave off caused some of the major figures to feel quite shocked. Bai Haoran's strength had exceeded their expectations, and he was much more powerful than before. Moreover, his big brother's name had shaken many domains. Not only did his big brother have extraordinary talent, causing ordinary geniuses to bow to him, but he had also been the #1 person in the ancient STEM domain for many years and had even been taken as a disciple by a higher being. Before, the higher being who had taken someone as a disciple had been his big brother. Now that his little brother, Bai Haoran, had such power, everyone could only sigh in amazement at their talent. They were both disciples of the #1 sect in the ancient STEM domain, the Tao cultivation sect. Facing everyone's gazes, Bai Haoran gave a humble smile and cupped his hands in greeting before walking towards the Tao cultivation sect. After the final person arrived, everyone felt much more at ease. At the same time, they felt quite excited, wondering what these geniuses would do. However, it was evident that everyone was much more powerful than the previous year. The time had just arrived, and the ancient STEM domain banquet officially began. The Tao cultivation sect's sect master, as the most prestigious person, stood up and prepared to announce the results. Boom! Suddenly, an incredibly massive aura swept out like a hurricane, almost blowing everyone away. Countless people could only defend and look up in panic. A cloaked figure appeared in the sky, giving off an emperor's aura and giving off a supreme might that spread out. Everyone's hearts were like candlelight in a berserk gale, and they could not help but want to kneel. His arrival caused countless people to look shocked. They had never thought that such a terrifying figure would suddenly appear. Just this aura alone could cause some geniuses to kneel. This emperor's aura was simply too powerful. Sensing this terrifying aura, the expressions of the countless major figures became serious. They had never thought that such a person would appear. The 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's people let out sighs of relief, and an elder smiled as he went up and explained Zhao Fu's identity. Only then did everyone know that this person was the mysterious emperor who had ascended the 10,000 Dragon stage and had shaken the entire ancient STEM domain. Chapter 1161. It was not just the people in the top 10 of the ancient STEM domain who were looking at Zhao Fu seriously. Even the major figures on the viewing platforms were looking at Zhao Fu seriously. The people in the top 10 all felt an unprecedented pressure from Zhao Fu's body, and this immense pressure caused them to treat him seriously and treat him with caution. This person is so terrifying, that was what they all thought at the same time. The major figures on the viewing platforms had heard of this mysterious disciple before, and some of them had been paying attention to him. After all, his identity was a very important matter to the ancient STEM domain. Even though they knew how powerful this person would be after ascending to the 10,000 Dragon stage, now that they had personally seen him, they realized that he was far more powerful than they had expected. With their experiences, they had definitely seen emperors before, but it was the first time they had seen someone with such a terrifying aura. As for the ordinary people, their eyes widened as they looked at Zhao Fu in shock, feeling a wave of terror. Facing everyone's gazes, Zhao Fu felt quite nervous. He found that there were simply too many people, and they were all experts. Wasn't the aura that I gave off too ostentatious? Just as Zhao Fu thought about his actions, the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's elder smiled and said, "Emperor, this way please, everyone is waiting for you." Zhao Fu nodded and followed the elder to the viewing platforms. Because Zhao Fu was an emperor from a certain empire, and did not belong to the ancient STEM domain, he naturally could not participate as a competitor and could only participate as a guest. As Zhao Fu walked onto the viewing platforms, everyone looked away. The Dao Cultivation sect master officially announced the start of the competition, and everyone cheered. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a massive stone stele on the stage was activated. Countless runes lit up on it, and it exploded out with a ray of light that shot into the sky. Immediately, the heavens and earth dimmed as clouds swirled, and all of the ancient STEM domain's fate quickly gathered. The karmic luck condensed into auspicious clouds, and countless rays of multicolored light sprinkled down from the sky, accompanied by falling petals. The scene was incredibly beautiful, as if it was a celestial realm. All of this was caused by that stone stele. It seemed that the ancient STEM rankings were not simple. If one could obtain a ranking, they would be able to enjoy the fate of the entire ancient STEM domain. This amount of fate was quite shocking, as the ancient STEM domain had 1,000 or so worlds. With so much fate gathered together, it was simply unimaginable. Sitting on the viewing platforms, Zhao Fu understood why so many people had come to attend the ancient STEM banquet and why the various factions viewed it so seriously. As long as one could make it on to the rankings, the providence they would receive would not be any weaker than the providence of a nation. Moreover, this fate was additional, and it was different from traditional fate additions. Additional fate could not be used, and it would only be added to one's body. It was not the same as traditional fate. Traditional fate was like a nation's fate or a sect's fate, which could be used at any time and sent into a nation armament to unleash world-destroying power. Although this additional providence could not be mobilized at one's own will, it still had its basic function as providence. Within the Heaven Awakened world, fate was incredibly important because it directly affected one's fate and one's opportunities. As such, the additional providence was quite useful. Names appeared on the stone stele. The first was by Hauran, the second was Gu Jian, and the third was In Ruoshi. There was also an age next to each name, as the ancient STEM rankings definitely had an age limit. Otherwise, it would be impossible for someone to continuously occupy the ancient STEM rankings. For example, the Dao Cultivation sect master was the most powerful expert in the ancient STEM domain. Who could surpass him? There were 126 geniuses on the ancient STEM rankings in total, and the ones at the top were all from the 20 royal kingdoms and the 5 great sects. With their foundations, the people they nurtured were all geniuses among geniuses. As such, it was impossible for others to surpass them and could only fall behind. Of course, this was apart from that monster Zhao Fu. The higher one's ranking was, the more fate they would receive, and the lower one's ranking was, the less fate they would receive. Apart from the direct fate rewards, there were also the rewards from the 20 royal kingdoms and the 5 great sects. The first person would receive the Desolate God Divinity, 10 days of comprehension, 10 mortal shedding pills, and 10,000 top-grade spirit crystals. The second person would receive a level 12 Saint armament, Death Race Sword, 8 days of comprehension, 8 mortal shedding pills, and 8,000 top-grade spirit crystals. The third person would receive a Saint pill, 6 days of comprehension, 6 mortal shedding pills, and 6,000 top-grade spirit crystals. The fourth person would receive a golden rock egg, 4 days of comprehension, 4 mortal shedding pills, and 4,000 top-grade spirit crystals. The fifth person would receive an earth-grade art, heavenly cicada art, 2 days of comprehension, 2 mortal shedding pills, and 2,000 top-grade spirit crystals. The sixth person would receive a world pearl, 1 day of comprehension, 1 mortal shedding pill, and 1,000 top-grade spirit crystals. The 7th person would receive a level 9 saint armament, Moon Void Blade, 1 comprehension book, 4 refining pills, and 5,000 high-grade spirit crystals. The 8th person would receive an ownerless blood jade, 1 comprehension book, 3 refining pills, and 4,000 high-grade spirit crystals. The 9th person would receive a dukedom city, 1 comprehension book, 2 refining pills, and 3,000 high-grade spirit crystals. The 10th person would receive a level 7 saint armament, shield of falsehood, 1 comprehension book, 2 refining elixirs, 2,000 upper spiritual crystals. After these rewards were announced, they instantly caused a commotion. These were the most generous rewards in the past 100 years. The first person would receive a desolate divinity, which was a divinity. It was not stated that it was incomplete, meaning that it was a complete divinity. Only someone who had truly killed a god could obtain it. Moreover, desolate gods were ancient, powerful, and violent godly spirit. They were even more powerful than ordinary gods, and killing them was much more difficult. However, looking at the rhombus-shaped blood crystal that was only as big as a pinky finger floating in the air, it was most likely the lowest grade desolate divinity. There were also other rewards that could be considered as regular rewards, such as comprehension of the Taishu. This was a piece that had fallen from the cosmos' historical remnant, and it was most likely the cultivation ground of a higher being. It contained boundless heaven and earth power and was of great help to one's comprehension. The comprehension books also contained similar power, but because they were replicas, the effects were not as good. The mortal shedding pill was a very high-grade medicinal pill that could purify one's bloodline and get rid of impurities. The top-grade spirit crystal was a cultivation item that contained large amounts of spirit energy. Low-grade spirit crystals could be obtained in the boundary regions, but top-grade spirit crystals could only be found in the heaven domain. Zhao Fu was quite moved by these rewards, as most of them were useful to Zhao Fu. Chapter 1162. There was also the Saint Pill, which had a chance of raising one's heaven grade to saint grade. Right now, Zhao Fu's grade was only heaven grade. There were not many people with heaven grade in a single world, but there were countless worlds in the heaven awakened world. In comparison, heaven grade was not much, as there were simply too many people. The reason why Zhao Fu's cultivation was so fast was mainly because of his celestial arts, as well as Wu Zetian and the others' contributions. At the same time, their cultivations had increased quite quickly, and it was most likely not just because of the celestial arts but also because of the Phoenix Chi from the Emperor Phoenix statue. It was a pity that the Saint Pill only had a chance of raising one's saint-grade bloodline and not a 100% chance. However, it was still quite attractive to Zhao Fu. Finally, there was the World Pearl, which was one of the most powerful spatial items. With it, Qin would be able to successfully construct a teleportation channel between worlds. That way, he would be able to set up traps and provide countless creatures to the devil world, turning them into devils. Zhao Fu was quite interested in these things, but Zhao Fu was participating as a guest and not a competitor, so he would not be able to obtain these things. Zhao Fu did not dare to reveal his identity. After all, there were so many terrifying experts here, and if Zhao Fu did something bad, he would not even know how he died. The competition this time was a challenger mode, which meant that people could challenge the geniuses on the ancient STEM rankings. If they could win, they would be able to take their place. Of course, there was a prerequisite. Otherwise, with 100,000 people, one person would definitely die. The prerequisite was to obtain the right to challenge. One had to defeat a certain number of people to obtain the right to challenge. Following this, the competitions started in an orderly manner. Arenas appeared on the stage, and the hosts maintained order. The people on the ancient STEM rankings did not have to do anything, they just had to wait for the results and accept everyone's challenges. Before, Zhao Fu had been quite interested in watching the competitions, but he found that there was nothing to see. This was because these people felt that they were too weak and Zhao Fu's level was too high. He felt like an adult watching a group of children fight, and it was quite boring. Zhao Fu looked at it for a while before looking away in disinterest. The 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's elder sensed Zhao Fu's expression and thought to himself, as expected from someone from the heaven domain, "It's only right that he looks down on these people's competitions." The elder pushed a plate of spirit fruits in front of Zhao Fu and smiled as he said, "Emperor, eat some spirit fruits first. You'll most likely be interested in the battles on the ancient STEM rankings, unlike now." Zhao Fu courteously nodded. Zhao Fu had come mainly to give the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group face, or else he might not have come. The other major figures looked at Zhao Fu with interest. The 10,000 Dragon Financial Group actually invited him over. With an imperial prince supporting them, their aura was quite great, making others feel a bit envious. 2 days later, the challenges concluded, and a few powerful people appeared. Their performances were quite extraordinary, and they had even climbed onto the ancient STEM rankings, causing countless people to feel admiration, jealousy, and worship. Following this, the battles between the people on the ancient STEM rankings began. The most eye-catching battle was naturally between the first-ranked Bai Haoran and the second-ranked Gu Jian. Gu Jian unleashed a sword qi whirlpool, causing the heavens and earth to seem to be filled with sword qi. It was like a massive gear that spun, slowly tearing apart space. That terrifying power caused everyone to feel terror. Bai Haoran unleashed a rainbow-colored domain that contained countless motes of light. These motes of light seemed to be alive and continuously changed. Some turned into trees, some into flowers, some into birds, and some into beasts. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the two terrifying powers collided, creating a shocking destructive power that devoured everything in an instant. The barrier that had been set up gradually cracked, and the traces of aura that leaked out caused countless people to fall into an icy cavern. The various experts also hurriedly took action to maintain the cracked barrier, preventing the terrifying fluctuations from leaking out. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked as he watched the terrifying battle between the two of them. As expected from a battle between ancient STEM rankings, the situation was completely different from before. Bang! Bang! On the other side, Yin Ruoshi and Leng Shang's battle was also incredibly ferocious, causing countless people to feel shocked. Yin Ruoshi sat cross-legged on the ground with a zither between her knees. Her pure white, slim fingers continuously plucked the zither's strings, and the sound was incredibly beautiful. It made people feel as if they were in a garden and were enjoying the scenery. However, there were countless traces of killing intent hidden within. Terrifying sound waves were like corporeal blades that slashed towards Leng Shang, and if he was not careful, his body would be sliced apart. Leng Shang held his sword and turned into a blood-red sword dragon. The seemingly corporeal killing intent covered his body, forming a defensive barrier that blocked the sound wave. Leng Shang roared as he started to attack Yin Ruoshi. The 5th-ranked and 6th-ranked Jiu Shaoyun and Greenwood Harpies battle was just as spectacular. Jiu Shaoyun unleashed a fog which was not simple at all. It contained a wondrous wine fragrance that could not be dispersed by the wind and could even be touched with one's hand. It was almost corporeal, while Greenwood Harpy turned into a massive tree. The wine fog turned into countless weapons that attacked the massive tree, while the massive tree gave off boundless green light and blocked the attacks. The battle between the 7th-ranked Nether Yin Dynasty's Yu Qianwei and the 6th-ranked Bear Mountain Dynasty's 3rd prince, Xiong Xiao, made Zhao Fu feel quite concerned. This was mainly because Zhao Fu had some enmity with the Bear Mountain Dynasty's 3rd prince. Now, he had turned into a massive black bear and swung his claws, sending out wild gales. His attacks were incredibly ferocious and violent. Yu Qianwei summoned countless ghosts, which turned into ghostly shields that blocked the massive black bear's attack. Back then, Xiong Xiao had given Zhao Fu a lot of pressure, and if he hadn't used his full strength, he might have died at his hands. This was mainly because he had a world seal, which suppressed Zhao Fu, making it very difficult for Zhao Fu to defeat him. Without the world seal's power, even though Xiong Zhao's power was terrifying, it was not as monstrous as before. It seemed that the removal of the City Lord's seal was beneficial to Zhao Fu and not completely detrimental. Moreover, even if he had a world seal, Zhao Fu would not be afraid. After all, Qin had unified a world, and the Qin royal seal had also become a world seal. Zhao Fu also paid attention to the battle between the 8th-ranked Gu Qinyue and the 9th-ranked Bing Qixue. After all, his relationship with Bing Qixue was quite good, and his abilities were quite extraordinary. He was quite proficient with ice-type attacks, while his opponent, Gu Qinyue, walked the path of brute force and could send out countless shockwaves with a single punch. Chapter 1163. The crowd could not help but gasp. This Hui Yan is too arrogant. He dares to challenge the Emperor's son. Although his courage is commendable, he's undoubtedly courting death. The identity behind the Emperor's son is not someone ordinary people can afford to offend. Moreover, no matter who wins or loses, there are no benefits. If he wins, he will be slapped in the face of the Empire, and if he loses, he will be mocked by the world for overestimating himself. This is simply an arduous and unrewarding thing. However, Hui Yan still said this. He wanted to fight with this legendary imperial prince and see for himself the power of an imperial prince. In actuality, everyone also wanted to see this emperor's power. They had heard about his performance on the 10,000 Dragon stage, but they had only heard about it and had not seen it for themselves. As for how terrifying that emperor's son was, he still had his suspicions. He could not be 100% sure that this was true. Some of the major figures on the viewing platforms could not help but smile. They also wanted to see this emperor's power, and they were quite happy to see things develop like this. As for the volcano sect master, he felt a chill down his back. He had never thought that Hui Yan would do such a stupid thing. It would be interesting for others, but the volcano sect would have to bear the pressure. He could only hope that things would not become too big. Now, Zhao Fu had once again become the focus of everyone's attention. He had been leaning against a chair and eating spirit fruits as he watched the competition, and he would occasionally chat with the elders next to him, looking quite relaxed. Facing everyone's gazes, before Zhao Fu could say anything, the elder from the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group looked quite displeased because this was clearly a provocation. However, just as he was about to say something, Zhao Fu cut him off. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he looked at Hui Yan and said, "That's not a problem, but you need to use your reward as a bargaining chip, and this emperor will compete with you." Before, Zhao Fu had said that he was quite tempted by those rewards, but he did not have an opportunity. Now Hui Yan had given him an excuse. Even though it would be quite embarrassing for an emperor to ask for a reward, Zhao Fu's skin was quite thick, and he was doing this for his own benefits. Everyone had never thought that this emperor would say such a thing. Did that mean that he was interested in those rewards? But with the empire's wealth, it shouldn't be lacking in these things. No one could understand this. What they didn't know was that Zhao Fu wasn't a true imperial prince, and was just a fake imperial prince with an imperial bloodline. Hui Yan loudly laughed and agreed. He did not care too much about the rewards. He just wanted to see just how powerful this emperor who had reached the 10,000 Dragon stage was. With Hui Yan's personality, he would not be convinced unless they fought. This was especially so after someone had listed him as an existence that surpassed the ancient STEM rankings and said that the ancient STEM rankings did not deserve his existence. This caused the expressions of those on the ancient STEM rankings to become quite unsightly. Today, he wanted to see just how powerful this emperor was. Zhao Fu smiled as he flew down from the viewing platform and stood on Huiyan's platform. Everyone also became alert, wanting to see the emperor's son's power. On the platform, Zhao Fu placed one hand behind his back and made an inviting gesture. He gave off a transcendent aura, as if he was a peerless expert. Huiyan gripped the halberd with both hands and looked serious. He did not dare to be careless, as this was an imperial prince. Ha! Huiyan roared and attacked first. His body shot out like a fiery light, bringing with it a searing heat wave as he shot towards Zhao Fu. In just an instant, he appeared in front of Zhao Fu and prepared to stab his halberd towards Zhao Fu. However, Zhao Fu calmly smiled as he looked at him and stretched out a hand, causing Huiyan to feel quite startled. Bang! A black dragon inscription barrier containing immense power instantly spread out, sending Huiyan flying back. After flying back, Huiyan used his foot to stop himself from flying back, and his expression became serious. This emperor was not simple at all. Boom! Huiyan did not hesitate and exploded out with his full power. A terrifying aura exploded out as flames appeared around Huiyan's body, and an intense searing aura spread out, seeming to twist space itself. Huiyan immediately used his most powerful attack. He had used this attack to quickly deal with the 11th ranked person and secure his 10th place. He raised the halberd with both hands and pointed it towards the sky. 9 orbs of flames rushed out of his body and flew into the sky, turning into 9 fire crows that gave off large amounts of light, making them look like 9 brilliant suns. At the same time, the incredibly bright light caused all of the water vapor to evaporate, causing the surroundings to become incredibly dry, as if they could burn at any moment. Every stage had a barrier protecting it. This way, the battles would not be too intense and the spectators would not be harmed. However, by now, the barrier was filled with fiery light, and it was so bright that nothing could be seen. The massive heat seemed to be able to melt the barrier, and the heat leaked out, causing the people in the surroundings to take a few steps back. So powerful! It's many times stronger than before, someone cried out in shock towards Huiyan's attack. Another person also agreed, that's right. Just then, Huiyan didn't even use his full strength and was able to defeat the 11th ranked person so easily. Now that he's using his full strength, it's quite terrifying. As expected from a genius from the ancient STEM domain. With such a terrifying attack, I feel that he can get into the top 6, another person said. I think that legatee is in danger. At that moment, the major figures on the viewing platforms all looked somewhat serious. Huiyan's performance was enough to make them take him seriously, as he far surpassed ordinary Stage 9 experts. Legatee, you have to receive this attack. Huiyan held the halberd, and under the 9 suns, he gave off a powerful aura that seemed to be able to kill a sovereign, causing countless people's hearts to tremble. Boom! 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 The 9 suns gave off power that seemed to be able to incinerate all things as they flew towards Zhao Fu. Their auras caused the air to explode, resulting in massive explosions. The 9 suns simultaneously landed where Zhao Fu was, causing a blinding light to shoot out. A destructive aura spread out, and the ground started to violently tremble. Everyone looked at the stage in shock. They could not help but feel shocked by this attack because it was simply too powerful. If it was them, they would have died without a trace. What will happen to Legatee? That was what countless people were concerned about. After all, Zhao Fu had directly received the attack of the 9 suns, so he would not have a good ending. After the dust settled, Zhao Fu was completely fine within the crater, and there were 9 fire crows surrounded by blood-red energy barriers floating around him. That legatee was able to receive Huiyan's most powerful attack so easily? Chapter 1164. At that moment, Huiyan's face was filled with disbelief. His most powerful attack had been blocked so easily. This dealt a heavy blow to his arrogant personality, making him feel quite dispirited. Even if Zhao Fu had been slightly injured, it would have been good. However, such a powerful and confident attack had not been able to deal any damage at all. How could anyone not feel dispirited? The major figures on the viewing platforms were also slightly shocked that Zhao Fu had been able to receive Huiyan's attack so easily. However, facing everyone's shocked gazes, Zhao Fu's expression became serious and did not look down on Huiyan at all. After all, Huiyan already had the ability to become serious. Right now, Zhao Fu was using the Saint Realm to easily cover the Fire Crows. Because the Saint Realm's power was many times greater than that of a Stage 9 expert, it was quite easy to do so. However, once Huiyan broke through to Stage 9, the power he could unleash would not be so easy to deal with. This was the power of a top-tier genius. Zhao Fu had personally experienced it, and he no longer looked down on Huiyan. Zhao Fu controlled the 9 Fire Crows, which were covered by a blood-red energy barrier, to revolve around him. Their auras were just as terrifying, and they were not any weaker than Huiyan's aura. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand towards Huiyan, preparing to attack. Seeing this, Huiyan hurriedly stopped Zhao Fu and called out, "I admit defeat. There's no need to continue fighting. That was my most powerful attack, and yet you were able to receive it so easily. I admit that I'm inferior to you." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had never thought that Huiyan would admit defeat so easily. However, since he had admitted defeat, Zhao Fu retracted his attack. Huiyan gave a bitter smile. This was the power of an imperial prince. He was indeed quite a bit off, but Huiyan did not completely lose confidence and said to Zhao Fu, "Imperial Prince, if there's an opportunity in the future, can we fight again? Next time, I definitely won't disappoint you." Huiyan's attitude became quite good, and Zhao Fu nodded and agreed. Following this, Huiyan held the fire halberd and jumped off the stage. Huiyan's name on the stone steel automatically fell to 11th place. An unnamed person taking the spot made countless people feel quite surprised. They understood that this unnamed person was Zhao Fu, but if he was not from the ancient STEM domain, he would not be able to enter the ancient STEM rankings. What was even more shocking was that the age displayed behind the name was only 6 years old. This was definitely a joke. This was simply impossible. That imperial prince was only 6 years old. Who would believe this? The ancient STEM stone steel was definitely broken, or else it would not display such a number. It was not just the countless ordinary people who stared at the ancient STEM steel with wide eyes. The other major figures also looked quite confused. Everyone only had one question in their hearts: just what was going on? Zhao Fu was also a little surprised. He didn't expect it to be like this. However, after thinking about it, he understood why. Zhao Fu was from the ancient STEM domain, so his name would naturally be on the ancient STEM rankings. As for his age, it was only 6 years, which was most likely because Zhao Fu had only been in the Heaven Awakened world for 6 years. Zhao Fu felt that this was quite fair, as Zhao Fu had only been in the Heaven Awakened world for 6 years, which was different to those who had been in the Heaven Awakened world since they were young. Bang! A massive sound attracted everyone's attention. It was the battle between Bai Haoran and Gu Jian. The victor was Bai Haoran, sending Gu Jian flying out of the stage. However, it looked like he had not won easily. Gu Jian had been sent flying out of the stage, but it seemed that he had not won easily. This interruption caused everyone to look quite confused. Just then, everyone's gazes had been drawn over by Zhao Fu, and they had not seen how Bai Haoran had won. This made everyone feel quite disappointed. The major figures on the viewing platforms all fell silent. They were not surprised that Bai Haoran had won, and they were all thinking about what had happened to Zhao Fu. At that moment, Zhao Fu could not help but break out in a cold sweat. Had his identity been exposed? It was better to run. Zhao Fu wanted to run because he was afraid that his identity would be exposed. Facing the countless experts on the viewing platforms, even if Zhao Fu had several lives, he would not be able to survive. After Stage 9, the cultivation realms were Saint Realm, Earth Realm, Heaven Realm, Harmony Realm, Great Earth Realm, World Realm, Divine Realm, Extreme Heaven Realm, and Emperor Heaven Realm. As the sect master of the Dao cultivation sect, he was definitely a world realm expert. Even if he did not have a world seal, he could use his own energy to control world energy. He would be more powerful than those who had world seals, and he would have the power to destroy worlds. Just as Zhao Fu was about to run, the 10,000 Dragon Financial Group's elder ran over in delight and said, "Emperor, I never thought that you would join the ancient STEM domain. Where are you now? The 10,000 Dragon Financial Group can be a place for you to stay." Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite confused. After asking around, he found out that he could change locations as long as he built a city. For example, Zhao Fu was originally from the ancient STEM domain, so he could build a city in the Heaven domain. That way, he could give up his previous identity and join the Heaven domain. Zhao Fu was not as nervous and careful. He glanced at the viewing platforms and saw that no one was going to act. However, even if Zhao Fu's identity had been exposed, there was no reason for them to act. After all, there did not seem to be any enmity between them, so they naturally would not act unless Zhao Fu revealed the matter of the Killing Sword Master. In that case, they would have to interfere. Now, Zhao Fu felt at ease and planned to return to the viewing platforms. Being able to enter the ancient STEM rankings was not bad. Not only would there be material rewards, but there would also be additional fate. Bang! Another muffled explosion sounded out as Gu Qinyue punched through Bing Qishue's barrier and sent him flying. She then looked at Zhao Fu, who was about to return, and gave a confident smile as she said, "Legatee, do you dare to fight with me?" This caused Zhao Fu to immediately turn around. The first time was fine, but the second time was like this. She was looking down on him, a fake legatee. Did he not care about his face anymore? "You woman!" Zhao Fu felt a trace of anger and leapt onto the stage. Bing Qishue looked quite awkward because he had just been defeated by Gu Qinyue. Looking at Zhao Fu, he did not know what to say. However, he knew his own limits and had personally witnessed Zhao Fu's power. As such, he did not want to exchange blows with Zhao Fu. The referee directly announced the battle between Zhao Fu and Gu Qinyue. After all, Zhao Fu had just obtained the 10th position on the ancient STEM rankings and had the right to challenge Gu Qinyue. Everyone once again felt quite interested, wanting to see how Zhao Fu would deal with Gu Qinyue. This was a woman who walked the path of brute force, a woman who could destroy anything with a single blow. On the stage, Zhao Fu coldly looked at Gu Qinyue, while Gu Qinyue smiled, not minding the provocative words from before as if they had not been said by her. Instead, she excitedly prepared to fight with Zhao Fu, looking quite reckless. The major figures on the viewing platforms did not pay much attention to this and were instead wondering why Zhao Fu was in the ancient STEM domain. Was he plotting something? They did not know if they were making a big fuss over a minor issue. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.